Hello there, friends. This is Spencer Michaud, and today we're going to be talking about the new moon in the third decan of Cancer. I hope that you're doing well out there, having a happy Friday. We're just hanging out on this beautiful Venus day. Of course, Friday is associated with the planet Venus, and I'm wearing my green, as I often do. So welcome, and buckle in for a couple hours of astro talk, a little bit of sharing about our lives and how things are going and things of that nature. And I would like to welcome some of the friends in the chat here. If you are joining me today, don't be shy. Let me know that you're here. Let me know where you're stopping in from. Josh is here, says happy belated birthday. Sorry I missed last week. No worries, Josh. I'm just happy you're here today. Rachel Fletcher is here from Roanoke, Virginia. Nice to see you, Rachel. Rose T is joining us from Ontario, Canada. Nice to see you, Rose. We've got some nice friends stopping in that I've been seeing in class and whatnot, so it's exciting to have all of you friends here today. Monique is here. What's up, Spencer from Los Angeles, California? Nice to see you. Monique, how you doing, friend? Hope you're doing well. El Nash is here from St. Louis. Hello, friend. Nice to see you. Loretta is stopping in from Vancouver, USA. Dawn Fisher is here from Mobile, Alabama. Says, love the Facebook video of your yard. Yeah, if you've been curious on updates on how my wildflower transition from grass to flowers and pollinators is going, I posted a little story, a little tour of some of the parts in the back that I removed some yard and started planting some seeds. So it's a work in progress. We've been blazing a path, and we've been repurposing some old concrete we found on the property and making a stone path, and we're in the process of mulching that path. And I have a number of lake rocks that I collected from the Great Lakes, from Lake Superior and Lake Huron and Lake Michigan, that I've been spreading in between the cracks. So when you get it wet, you can see all these like fossils, like Petoskey stones and agates and things like that. It's really cool. It's starting to come together. I'm really excited about it. So check that out on my Instagram at Spencer Michaud if you want to see the progress that's going on there. Yvette is here. Hello, Yvette. Nice to see you, friend. How you doing? Beth is here. Beth EK White. Nice to see you, Beth. How you doing, friend? Hope things are going well for you. Robin Nadira is here. It says, Robin Campbell from Heddlesburg, California. And I see maybe that is a new name. Maybe you've been here before, friend. But welcome and nice to see you. Amber Anderson is joining us from Ohio. Like, hey, our neighbors to the south, right? KP1231 says, hey, Spencer and everybody here from Cleveland. All right. I had a nice time in Cleveland. I went down to Cleveland a while back and toured the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and went down to the Flats, I think they call it, and the Great Lakes Museum. There's some nice stuff in Cleveland. Also, there's a beautiful national park down, oh boy, it's like a big river basin. The name of it is escaping me right now, but there's another park in there called Ledges where it just looks like something out of Middle Earth. It's Cuyahoga Valley National Park, really cool place. So I know that there's some sort of weird fake rivalry between Michigan and Ohio, but to me, we're all part of the same earth here. There's beauty everywhere that we can appreciate. Carolyn is stopping in from Carmel Valley, California. Hope you're feeling better, Carolyn, and doing well. Okay, friends, thanks for stopping in. Thanks for all the chats here, and thanks for hanging out with me last week on my birthday. That was super special, and really appreciate you. And I'm feeling re-energized, I think, a little bit by the Jupiter perfection year that I'm starting out here. It's been a long week, but I think that I'm feeling good. I got a good shower in this morning. I went and toured around the flowers in the garden and refreshed a little bit. I think we're all feeling a little bit of the balsamic moon, which is the end of a lunar cycle. So we're trying to tie up some loose ends and complete some things, maybe let go of some things to free us up for this new cycle. So if you're feeling a little bit like, well, I'm kind of tired today, but feeling okay, it's all right not to push yourself too hard. I think that's the balance that we need to strike, is how can we listen to our bodies, and especially during Cancer season when we need to slow down and rest a little bit too. Carolyn says, question, could you say something today about the nodes of the moon moving into Aries and Libra? Good point, Carolyn. We will discuss that because that is one big part of our new moon, landscape, I guess, is the nodes of the moon shifting into Aries and Libra. So I will cover that. So thank you for reminding me, Carolyn. Susanna is joining us from Finland. Hello, Susanna, and happy birthday to you, friend. Like it was her birthday in the last week. We're kind of birthday buddies. So I hope that your new solar cycle is treating you well so far. Tanya Gerardo is joining us from hot and sunny Mesa, Arizona. Wow. I've never been to the Southwest, friends. Someday I'll have to check it out. I bet there's some real beauty there. I know my dad went to Arches National Park in Utah not too long ago, and he took some really cool pictures. So I'd be curious to check it out one of these days. Dimphy is here from the Netherlands with a little sunflower. Hello, friend. Yeah, no worries, Beth. Beth is sad that she missed my birthday. That's okay. Like, you can rewatch it. It's all there. Susanna says your flower field is beautiful. Thank you, Susanna. Yeah, that's one of the things that a big project I've been taking on this year. I've been feeling very inspired to, I don't know, just do my own little part to contribute to the plants and animals of my community. And we've been slowly but surely removing a lot of the grass in our yard and planting not only pollinator plugs. That's in process still because that requires a lot of turf, getting rid of a lot of turf and things like that. But I have a big space in my backyard that was just, it kind of grew wild for a few years. There's just a lot of weird stuff back there, like a lot of dead trees, and just, it was crazy. We removed all that and we spread out wildflower seeds for our particular location, and it's starting to come up and it's starting to look really nice. And it's just, it's bringing me a lot of joy. And I feel like it's the eucatastrophe that I've been talking about on here, which is a Tolkien term about being able to do a little, some kind of good deed or something that might be some kind of oasis or salvation for someone, maybe someone other than yourself. And in this case, for the bees and for the animals in this community. We're losing a lot of habitat for animals and insects and pollinators. And by just planting those things and doing things like getting rid of your grass and not using chemicals on your lawn, those types of things can really make a difference for that particular species that's in your backyard. So it's the small actions that start to turn the tide. And this is something that I've really been taking to heart after reading The Flowering Wand by Sophie Strand. I've talked about that a lot on this channel. I'm going to try to keep things a little positive today. I've been feeling a lot of climate anxiety. I guess that's the term for it. I've been witnessing a lot of the changes that we've been going through, and reading some of the news about the disasters that are going on in various places, and it can feel overwhelming at times. So today, without denying that those things are happening, acknowledging them, feeling the grief for it, and being able to think about, I want to think about today ways that maybe we can do some good in the world and how we can maintain that hope throughout some of these challenging changes. Because at the end of the day, we have to have balance with that, right? We have to live our lives, we have to keep going, and we have to find beauty in those everyday experiences. And that's part of my goal today. So help me out with that in the chat here. Tell me some of the things that you find beautiful and that you're hopeful about for this, I don't know, not just for this summer, but for the future, and things that we can do together. I would love to hive mind this. I've been getting into bees and bumblebees and things like that. So we are a hive mind here on some level. So let's put our heads towards what we want to create in this world, and to the legacy that we want to leave behind for our children, our grandchildren, and future generations, and for the plants and animals that we share this planet with. Oh, Beth has a new internet plan, so no more cutting in and out for Beth. So I'm happy to hear that. We got more people commenting on wildflower video, which is great. I just love sharing those things, and I love seeing your gardens and all the things that you're doing to make a difference in your corner of the world as well. Monique says Spencer's birthday broadcast is a free solar return class. It was great. Catch the replay. Thanks, Monique. Monique is a good hype person for this channel. Yeah, we if you did miss it last week, we went over solar return technique. I broke down my natal chart and my solar return chart and annual perfections and Time Lord techniques. Just to kind of show you how I would do that for a client if they came to me for a birthday reading or something of that nature. So that, it's a class basically. So yeah, check it out. I really enjoy teaching. Teaching is something that I'm super passionate about, and it's really just a part of this channel. And sometimes that's why we go so long, is because we're just learning as we go along, as well as talking. Painted Turtle is here. Nice to see you, friend. Feeling the nodal shift. Yeah, it's coming pretty soon, isn't it? KP1231's question says, "Do you please discuss the South Node Libra conjoining natal planets, specifically Neptune? Any info would be helpful. Thank you." Yeah, so we got a couple questions about the nodal shift, so we'll try to break that down today. Stephen, the Jupiterian, is here. Says, "Do you use the mean or true nodes in your readings?" I think I use the mean nodes. I'm gonna have to look at that again. Let's see. No, I have the true node here, the true lunar node. Sorry. So true lunar node in these here. For those of you who are confused about what that is, there's a slightly different way to calculate the nodes of the moon. There is an averaging that takes place with the mean node, and it really changes the dates of when those nodes will shift. It's not by too much, but it's a couple days or maybe even up to a week when those nodes will shift. So that's a good question and a good clarification as well. Tarja T is here from Finland. Nice to see you, friend. Okay, so thanks for everyone stopping in today and for joining me and for sharing your well-wishing and all of those things. Here's a few business things before we get started and dive into the chart today. The best thing you can do to support the channel is make sure you like the video and subscribe. This is a great way to get the word out. Spread the word with your friends too. If you really like what you see here, send them a video, send them the channel, share a link, tell your friends, tell your family, share it in your social media stories. That really does help grow the channel here in our community, and it really helps me out too, and helps me to continue to cycle energy and things of that nature. So we don't get stagnated. We need new voices in here. We need to kind of bring more people in and call more people in. If you want to make a material donation, the work I'm doing today, there's a little $sign in the chat. It's called Super Chat or Super Sticker. That really helps me keep the lights on here. It helps me to add to my research library, helps pay the bills, helps with all the things that are going on here. So I appreciate all of you who are generous with your resources here today as well. I do have another sale going on. I have the Decans of Cancer are going to be on sale until the end of Cancer season, which is the 22nd of July. Those are webinars that I do, or that I did, that are about 2.5 to 3 hour webinars. I talk a lot about the Decans, which are 10-degree sections of a sign, and they're associated with the tarot card. Here we see the Four of Cups associated with the third decan of Cancer, which we're dealing with today with the new moon. And I break that down through the lens of myth, history, planetary significations, fixed stars, all of those things go into that. All of my passions that I explore have gone into those things. So I'm really proud of that work, and I hope that it will serve you well. So the Cancer Decans are on sale right now, and just FYI, I put Leo on sale a week early. So if you've been itching to purchase the Leo Decans to prepare for Leo season, that's available now for 20% off. So check that out. There's also a Stars and Cards webinar there that I did. It was a talk I did for Nightlight Astrology, and there's some really good stuff in there too. If you're really interested in the tarot and you want to do a deep dive in kind of the correspondences of tarot and how to utilize it within a natal chart, how to combine those two things, that's available in the store as well. I, of course, am always available for readings as well. I do transit readings, natal readings. I teach and tutor. So those are all the things that you can engage with at spencermichaud.com. I wanted to also announce that I'm on Threads now. This is a new social media thing that is sort of like a Twitter replacement, potentially. So you can follow me at Spencer Michaud, at Threads, at Instagram. I do still have a Twitter, but I'm slightly less active there now than I was in the past. I started some threads today, just feeling a little bit of the Cancerian nostalgia. I somehow came across a video for Parker Lewis Can't Lose. You remember this show? This was a show in the early 90s that I really enjoyed as a preteen, like early teenager. It is really well done. It's kind of like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and just really funny and kind of quirky. And I'm feeling the Venus retrograde coming, where we might be revisiting some of the things that we loved in the past, and I'm feeling kind of the attraction to some of those things, and going on a little Cancerian nostalgia deep dive. So check that out if you haven't. It's like a early 90s time capsule as well, which I find really interesting. Okay, I'm going to check back in with the chat here. Those are the business things. Also, make sure you sign up on my newsletter. I apologize, I didn't get a song of the week out today. This week's been really busy for me, and something had to go. And it does take a lot of energy and effort to write that out and to do all the things with the chart and find the musicians. So that should be returning next week. But if you want to keep up to date to when I'm going to be going live and things like that, the newsletter is the best thing to keep you on the cutting edge, so to speak. Rose T says, I'm working on a project right now to create space where you can create in a space for the next generation. It will also be a place where I can work and possibly teach. Okay, cool. Yeah, tell us more, Rose. I'd be curious to see what you've got going on there. I really enjoy your knitting. I believe Rose is a knitter, right? She makes these really beautiful, like, I don't know if they're Afghans or like quilts or things like that. So yeah, I'd be curious to hear about your creative space that you're working on. Steven says the mean node and the north node is already in Aries as of yesterday. On the 17th, the true node will move into Aries. That's okay. So for those of you who use the mean node, you might also already be feeling this. And yeah, Monday, right after the new moon, we're going to see the true node shift. So, we'll break it down. And regardless of which node that you use, which calculation that you use, within a few days, we're all going to be feeling this shift. Steven says, I had bought the book, Secrets of the Waite Smith. So interesting that Ellen Terry is mentioned in the book. She is a well-known Shakespearean actress. Yeah, we just started our Secrets of the Waite Smith Tarot guided group study. It's been going really well. Like, we have a really nice group, a really intelligent group. Really excited to dive into that with those folks, and with a lot of people that are here in the chat today. So I'm really grateful for those of you who have joined us. And if you didn't make it this time around, we'll have some more offerings in the future, but check out that book, Secrets of the Waite Smith. It's really a great book, and it brings a lot of context and talks a lot about stagecraft that Pamela Coleman Smith was working with when she was making the images. Okay, so everybody doing all right? Having a good Cancer season? Let's talk a little bit about this lunation, if we will. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just show you the chart of the new moon, and I'll show you a little bit of my Cancer Decan slides as well. So this is the new moon in Cancer 3. So the way that I do my astrological musings is I've become very interested in I don't know if it's an esoteric technique, but it's becoming more popular, but it is a technique where we're exploring each sign through a 10-degree section. We have sort of a cardinal decan, a fixed decan, and a mutable decan. This is kind of what we would consider a mutable decan. It's in the process of changing to the next sign. There's also another way of thinking about the decans where we see the initiation of a specific energy in the first 10 degrees. We have a solidification of it in the second decan. And then in the third decan, sometimes we get to a point of excess. I see this a lot in these decans. Like in this case in Cancer, we may have an excess of feelings. We may have an excess of being able to provide for the body. Maybe we have an excess of resources potentially. So we're dealing with questions of what is enough? When have we had enough? What do we do with the surplus? Austin Cobbett calls this decan the overflowing cup. So this is something where we may just be feeling like, I've had enough of this, but I'm not exactly sure what else I want, right? it's kind of like you've had enough food and you're satiated and you're like, what do I do next? How do I digest this? So there's a digestion energy with this lunar cycle coming up. Okay, this is, and of course the date we're dealing with here is July 17th, 2023. This is Monday. So if you're a Duran Duran fan, it's the new moon on Monday, right? Which is, I always find fun and exciting. At 2:31 p.m. Eastern time, and make the proper adjustment for your time zone. But we're going to see the new moon at 24 degrees of Cancer. And the moon is in its own domicile, which means it's in its own sign, so a powerful position for the moon. It's also in its own decan, or its own face. So this is a very, very lunar space in the zodiac. We are seeing an overcoming sextile by whole sign from both Jupiter and Uranus. It's a little bit closer to Uranus, but Jupiter is still providing positive testimony to this new moon, which I like. It's a pretty interesting relationship. We've got a whole sign trine from Saturn. We've got a sextile from Mars. So the malefics aren't really messing with this new moon. You want to kind of look at where the malefics and the benefic planets are the relationships that they're having with the lunation itself. Venus and Mercury are going to be in aversion. That basically means that they aren't able to see those planets on either side. They're in a blind spot. So they're less, they're speaking less loudly in this particular lunation, although we have to keep in mind that Venus is stationing retrograde shortly after this new moon. Like within 4 to 5 days of this new moon, we're going to be seeing Venus stationing retrograde. The big thing that we're kind of seeing here, as far as just like, well, there's a little sticky part in this new moon in particular, and that's Pluto. So we are dealing with probably the last new moon, and depending on when Pluto retrogrades back into Capricorn, I think it does for a short period of time next year. This will be one of the last lunations in an opposition to Pluto in Capricorn. So we will probably be having to deal with some bureaucratic challenges, dealing with, maybe our own hoarding instincts, which can be associated with the Four of Pentacles, versus learning how to be generous with our resources. Those could be something that we could be dealing with. We may also be confronting some challenges with authority figures, with the sun opposite Pluto, especially in organizational systems. If you think about the third decan of Capricorn, it's really related to sort of the structures of society. So we may be feeling some tension between our domestic life and the challenges we're dealing with there, and how we're going to relate to society and some of the challenges that we're dealing with Pluto there, just kind of revealing a lot of the things that have been ignored for a long time. The word we like to use is corruption, but it goes deeper than that. It's things that we've just repressed that are coming up, that need to be dealt with, that need to be transformed, that need to be, acknowledged and worked on. So those are some things we might see during this lunar cycle, is a kind of this conflict between the body, life. Okay, Cancer is called the gate of life in Hellenistic philosophical literature, whereas Capricorn was the gate of death. The gate of man and the gate of the gods is how they would describe it. So we may be dealing with issues of life and death, of bringing life into the world, and how we deal with the challenges of composting or letting go of things and letting go of life. So those are things that might be coming in as themes. We still have a retrograde Saturn. And the other kind of thing that I'm really seeing in this new moon is a real challenge with Mars. So now we have Mars in Virgo, and Mars in Virgo is going to be applying to an opposition to Saturn in Pisces. So that's going to perfect over the course of the week after the new moon. I've been feeling this energy like I just have a lot to do. Like I got really busy once Mars moved into Virgo. Like there was just a lot of details to pay attention to. And Saturn in Pisces is really calling on us to be, I think, balanced on how we use our energy. It's also asking us to release our attachment to form, our attachment to doing things a certain way, and challenging us to find meaning within what we're doing. So for me, like here's just an example of this. I had a few clients this week. I had class that started. I had a lot of things that I was dealing with just some projects at home too that required a lot of attention this week. And I'm kind of a one-man team here. I don't have a social media team or anything like that. So all the promo material I create, I do all the emails, I post everything, I do all the writing in the email. And sometimes when I'm trying to do prep for readings, which is extensive, I prepare quite a bit. And for these talks today, I just kind of ran out of time to do like the song of the week, and something had to go, right? So the essence of communicating with you as an audience to be able to bring people to the chat today was more important than being attached to doing something a certain way like I had done it in the past. So to me, that is one example of like Mars and Virgo, maybe having to cut out some details, having to change the form slightly to be able to maintain the essence of what we're doing. And so I do think that is built in to this lunation cycle. And there's going to be some things where details are going to get a little bit fuzzy, and we may have to release. Perfectionism is one way to think about it. That I think that perfectionism is definitely a Virgo challenge, but in the studies that I've done with like nightlight and things like that, it really opened my eyes to there's a difference between the Virgo perfectionism and the air sign perfectionism. I really like the way that Adam talks about the air signs being really very perfectionistic, because they are working with abstractions. And when we work with abstract forms, that can, it's very easy to get disappointed in the imperfection of the earthly manifestation. Okay, when we become detached or deracinated from the actual lived reality, I think so we really think about if you have Libra, Aquarius, or Gemini placements, about the perfectionism that you may experience with that. Now with Virgo, I think the perfectionism in Virgo that we hear and talk about, and we're talking about Mars and Virgo here, opposite Saturn, is that to me, Virgo is one of those signs that there's some anxiety built into this. And it's the anxiety of trying to prepare for the winter. It's the harvest season. It is where we are trying to infuse, or we are trying to preserve things against the ravages of time. Okay, so there is a need to be able to identify the flaws. If you think about this agriculturally in the Northern Hemisphere, you have to be able to identify the types of grains or the types of fruits and vegetables that are worth preserving and worth your energy to preserve, okay? While also identifying which of those fruits, vegetables, grains, etc., have rot or have an insect damage that really just need to be returned to the earth. So there's both a preservation energy in Virgo and a letting go, composting energy that I think is really prevalent. And again, the anxiety that I think Virgo placements feel, myself included, myself and my partner included, she's probably listening here today, like, don't you include me in this? Is that, when you have abundance at the end of summer, you really, that's when the real work begins. Okay, like when you are able to manifest a lot of, I experienced it this week. I had a really nice turnout for my class. I'm really super grateful for everyone that signed up for class and for this amazing group. But when you have an abundant group like that, like the administrative tasks become more, they expand. So there's that energy of like having to do all this administration associated with that. So that's one example of a harvest, and then having to be able to deal with the challenges of a harvest. So what is going on with Mars opposite Saturn though? Pisces to me is that well, not to me, the Pisces is that season, okay, before the spring equinox. So before a rebirth of the sun. It is sort of like we've been dormant for a long period of time, and now we're trying to melt the boundaries between things that we've gone through the winter, through the Saturnian cycles of Capricorn and Aquarius. And we're trying to find out what is going to inspire our new set of Aries actions, our new spring birth, right? Where do we find meaning in it? So Virgo is separating things out to preserve things for the future. Pisces is dissolving those boundaries so that you can feel a connection to spirit, meaning, motivation, so that you can then take action in the Aries season, okay? So to me, these are, either one of them doesn't have like more dignity than the other in this particular decan, although I will say Saturn is in its own face. So that's something to consider. But we're just kind of squaring off on trying to preserve things from the future, and then also trying to see how it fits in meaning-wise. So that's kind of my breakdown of the Mars-Saturn opposition. I've been talking to a lot of clients recently and friends where we've really been talking about our limiting beliefs. And not only our limiting beliefs, but which beliefs we want to turn into real projects, or which dreams we want to turn into real projects, and which ones are just not going to happen. Every dream cannot manifest. That's just, we are so creative as human beings that we have so many dreams, but there are limitations that we work with in physical reality. Now we may consider that we may believe that there are more limitations than there actually are. Some of us have dealt with that through trauma. There is, I believe that scarcity consciousness is definitely a thing, and a lot of it is just a trauma response. So I think that I'm not a huge fan of like making people feel guilty about that, because a lot of it comes from severe challenges that people have had in their life, and it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of compassion to work through those thoughts and feelings, myself included. This is one of the challenges I've been going through with Saturn and Pisces, is how can I release some of the methods that I've crafted my life around, like some of the beliefs that crafted my actions. And here's the thing, this is where you can release the guilt part of this. Sometimes those actions actually were the right actions at a certain period of time in your life. But sometimes the things that were survival mechanisms in the past can become limiting in your present, okay? So I think Saturn is challenging us right now to be present and say, which of these beliefs are shaping our reality, are acknowledging the reality of our situation now, not what was in the past, not necessarily like what we may, hope for or fear in the future as well. Okay, so I think it is about presence. So in this lunation, you may have to really reconcile the reality of your life versus the dream. Okay, that's part of this lunation too. I'm just going to take a look through the chat here. Always love all your wonderful comments. Oh, cool. Stephen is doing a master's in educational theater. So this Secrets of the Waite Tarot is right up your alley then, Stephen. Nice. Okay. Scott Scorpio Sun Tarot is here. Says hello from the mountains of Virginia. First time here. All right, Scott. First time caller, long time listener. Right? So, nice to see you, friend. And I hope that you're doing well, and welcome. We have a nice community here, and I hope that you will find value in what we're doing. Rose says, as an Aquarius, I 100% agree, Aquarius Sun here. Yeah, I'm talking about the perfectionism of air signs and the idealism that can lead to disappointment really, sometimes with the physical manifestation of it. Dimphy says a Gemini ascendant, and while you speak, drawing an abstract Gemini ascendant, and while you're speaking, drawing an abstract mandala, and my Virgo sun is sterilizing bootless now to be able to infuse oil with calendula flower. Oh, that's cool. Right, so you're getting rid of the bacteria so that you can preserve something. So there we go. Astrology in action, right, Dimphy? Callie is here. Nice to see you, Callie. Callie at the beach is here. Yeah, Dimphy's saying preserve it for winter, as there are 14 pots of pickled zucchini. That's, yes. I mean, that's really the work, isn't it? You know, it's one thing to grow something in a garden. It's something entirely different to be able to utilize what you've grown. And this is really a secret to Virgo, is trying to utilize all of your material resources and your gifts. It's a very skilled position because it takes a lot of skill and to be able to preserve that for the future. Okay. So this is the kind of the breakdown of some of the factors that we are experiencing. We also have sort of this separating square from Venus and Uranus. It's been separating for quite a bit, so this isn't as much of a factor, although Venus is going to be retrograding back into the square with Uranus. I've been seeing news articles around the writers and the actors strike. So the actors in America, or in the Screen Actors Guild, might be international, I'm not sure. They have joined with the writers going on strike, and that to me feels like a very Venus retrograde and Leo type of manifestation. Where, you know, the spotlight and the harmony with the spotlight and creating performance there's difficulty right now. There's a lot of arguments around it. There's a lot of disagreements. There's people that are standing their ground so that they can be treated with respect and authenticity. And that's one of the significations of Venus in the third decan of Leo, is figuring out which hill you want to die on and which one is worth letting go. So in the Screen Actors and Writers Guild, they are saying this is our stance, and this is where we're going to kind of, you know, defend our position. People have been asking about the nodes moving. So here, check this out. So the nodes move like hours after the moon. So look at this, like an hour, like almost less than an hour, right? Like minutes, maybe even. Let's see, the true node moves into Libra minutes after this lunation. Okay, so where is this? What is this happening here? Yeah, it's gonna be, oh, I don't know, I'm just getting too fixated on the details here. But for those of you wondering, these little horseshoes are the nodes of the moon. And the north node is the kind of the rainbow shaped one. And then we have the upside down rainbow here, is the south node. And of course, in Indian astrology, they call those Rahu and Ketu respectively. So modern psychological astrology likes to think of those as things that the north node is something we are growing towards, and the south node something that maybe we are releasing or moving away from, like from a past life or something like that. Hellenistic astrology would think of those nodes as a point of increase, the north node, where things are coming into existence. Like I was talking about the gate of men, the Cancerian gate. The south node being where things are leaving and we're dealing with release. In that Jyotish system, the Indian astrology, they thought of the north node, Rahu, as the severed head of a demon that had stolen the elixir of life, and he got it lodged in his throat, and another god came and severed his head while he still had the elixir of life in his throat. And so he was able to survive that. But he is hungry, he is unable to be satiated. So another way of thinking about this, and of course the south node K2 is the body that is processing things. Another way of thinking about this is the north node could also be a place of desire. Not just a place of what we should, quote unquote, grow towards, but maybe a place of something that we really desire, that we're like, oh, I really want this. And that desire may be difficult to satiate. Whereas the south node is a place of detachment, where we may have to deal with situations that come to us, maybe from our past, maybe from the sowing, okay, or the reaping of what we have sown in the past potentially. So when those nodes move into Aries and Libra, first of all, we're going to be seeing an increase we're switching from Venus North Node, okay, Taurus, to a Mars North Node. So we've seen an increase I've seen an increase in my desire to like farm basically, or do wildflowers or pollinator gardens or things like that. And we're releasing our kind of like the relationships that we have that are very tightly wound and bound together with each other. Okay, in Scorpio, where there may be some things where we've been really tightly enmeshed with something or someone, and we've been having to compost that in certain area of your life. And Tanya's here. Hello, Tanya. Tanya is not inside the house, but Tanya Andrews is here, my lovely partner, coming to us from her work. It says actors are also fighting to keep the rights to their voice and likeness with the advent of AI being able to replicate someone so completely, which feels very relevant. Ooh, that's a great point, Tanya. And that's a great reason for them to be striking. Because yeah, if you basically can just scan someone's image, it's identity theft, right? Like, so that's definitely worth fighting for and worth taking a stand over. And you know, they may even do the same thing with people who have already passed on, and those people don't have the ability to give the green light or the red light in what projects that they're a part of, and that can be a big ethical concern as well. Like if you want to have a dead actor star in something, but it's something that they never would have agreed to be a part of, that's a problem, and that this is something that we're all going to have to reconcile with as AI gets more powerful, and figuring out how, with deep fakes and things like that. Those are challenging things that are coming on the horizon if they're not here already. But talking about the nodes, we're seeing the North Node shift into the third decan of Aries. So if we just go a couple minutes, we've advanced the chart a few minutes away from the chart, or from the new moon. Okay, we're going about an hour-ish away. We're going to see them shift over eventually one of these days. There it is. Okay, so about 2 hours after, we're going to have the nodes shifting over. In my time zone, about 4 o'clock Eastern time for the true node. Okay, of course, as Stephen pointed out, the mean node has already switched over. So now we have an increase in that third 10-degree section of Aries. We're going to be drawing upon martial energy as a whole before we dive into like the Mars part of, or the Decan part of it. We're going to feel an increase in our desire to individuate, right? To separate from the collective, to become an individual point of light. We may be feeling an increase in our in our fighting instincts, right? With like the strikes and things like that, where we're saying, no, I need to be respected as an individual. I need to be appreciated for who I am, separate from the collective. Okay, so there may be things that you're initiating. This is like a springtime energy in the Northern Hemisphere. So you may be really having a desire to start things, to be able to sever from, whether it's a family, like a family story, sever from a group or a collective, even relationships. There could be some challenges within relationships as the nodes shift as well. Now, the South Node in Libra is, of course, Venus ruled. We're moving from the South Node in a Mars ruled sign to South Node in a Venus ruled sign. So we may be dealing with situations from our past where we may not be able to maintain all of the balance that we did in the past. We may feel a little bit like it's now or never. We've got to do this right now. We've got to snap into action. And I've been talking about this as far as in the relationship to being able to deal with the ramifications of climate change. Like, I do think that there was an article there was like a headline on one of the news things I follow. It's like, alarm bells are going off. There's floods, there's wildfires, there's heat. Like, it's time to snap into action for us to change this so we can survive. So that might be something that hopefully starts to get some momentum, right? But I won't belabor that point today. But it may be more difficult in your life to come to a compromise. There are some situations where there isn't always an equal compromise, right? And we may have to, again, you can agree to disagree without always asking permission or always having to change your position for someone else's belief. When I work with clients that have this nodal axis, North Node in Aries, South Node in Libra, many of them will be people that are nice to a fault. Like, they are working on advocating for their own needs. Now, a lot of them get really nervous about advocating for their own needs because they feel like they're going to be jerks, or they're not going to, they're not used to that. But there's a story I tell with this nodal axis that I learned from Jan Spiller in her really great book on the nodes. I believe it's called Astrology for the Soul. And she talks about a snake that visits a village, and he's eating all the children, and he's killing the villagers and things like that. And there's a wise man that descends from the mountaintop and talks to the snake and is like, "Snake, you can't eat the children. You this is wrong. You need to stop doing this." And the snake, he's like, "Okay, wise man, I'm going to stop doing this." And the wise man comes back. Yeah, some time has elapsed, and the snake is like inches from death. These kids are like beating him with a stick. They're throwing rocks at him. That he just is in super bad shape. And the wise man's like, "Snake, what is going on with you? Like, what's happening here?" He's like, "Well, you told me not to eat the children, And the wise man was like, "Snake, I told you could not eat the children, but I never said that you couldn't hiss." And to me, this is the balance point of learning to hiss, learning to say, this is where my line is, and I'm going to respect your sovereignty, but you can hiss without just completely destroying someone else's viewpoint or whatever, or even completely destroying a relationship. I know people will get nervous when they see the North Node in Aries, South Node in Libra, like, "Oh no, is a relationship going to end?" Some may, but you may find a new independence within your relationships as well. That's another portion of it. You don't have to blow up a relationship completely to make it, to advocate for some of your own needs within it. And this is true for a lot of situations. You don't have to completely destroy every interaction that you have with everyone to be able to get your own needs met. So some of this is like including yourself in the equation. A lot of the times people with Libra South Node, they just completely relinquish any of their own desires for someone else's needs and wants and opinions. Or they can't start anything without anyone else's permission. That's another really important thing. So you may be feeling like, I don't need anyone's permission. This is what I want to do, and this is what I'm going to do. And take it or leave it. So that is going to be increased as we move forward. Now, that being said, I don't necessarily think that, I don't believe in the evolutionary viewpoint that this is where you should be going. I think that there's a balance point between these two energies. And I think what we're trying to find is the balance point between the two nodal energies, okay? So yes, advocate for your own needs, but don't run roughshod over people. Still listen to other people, okay? And recognize that just because you desire independence doesn't mean that you can have it in every single situation. There's going to be some situations. South Node is a binding energy. There's also a theory that the South Node is related to Saturn, where the North Node is related to Jupiter. Okay, so this is that increase with Jupiter, but also things that we're bound to, responsibilities that we have in our life. So now the nodes are going to be creating an increase and an expansion and a desire for that expansion in the Aries area of your chart. Whereas Libra is going to probably bring you some situations in the Libra area of your chart where you either may need to let go, you may need to compost, you may also have situations that you're bound to, that you have responsibilities to as well. And I think that is a really important delineation and difference between the way that I view that and the way that maybe some more modern astrologers might view that energy. Now, those nodes, they're rough. I mean, this is, if you remember, in ancient astrology, in ancient times, well, let me back up. Eclipses happen near the nodes. And if we think of those nodes in the Eastern way of thinking as demons, they were consuming the lights, the sun and the moon. So think of how scary that must have been before there was, as much scientific knowledge. When we have an eclipse where literally it looks like the life-giving deity, the sun, or the goddess, the moon, is being consumed by darkness or by blood. So they didn't really think of these things as like great omens, but we know now that how they work, but they are omens of major change. And I think that that's something to consider, that we're going to have a different set of circumstances that are going to be working through. And people were asking me about, like, what if I have a planet on the north node, south node, etc. You probably will see an increase in the significations if you have a planet in Aries. You will, whatever planet it is, like the way that I like, what's her name? I'm staring at it. She's a medical astrologer, Judith Hill. Judith Hill has a book on the nodes. It's a yellow book that I really like. I'm going to go grab it for a second. Okay, so Judith Hill has this book, The Lunar Nodes, the key, your key to excellent chart interpretation. And it's really great. It goes over just all these planet nodal combinations. And I think that one of the things that I do when I look at the nodes and those relationships is, whatever type of energy you have, you're going to see an increase on the north node. So for better or for worse, okay? So if you have a benefic that's hitting the north node, let's say you have Jupiter or Venus on the north node, that might be increasing some of your good fortune potentially. If you have a planet in Libra on the south node, that may be decreasing that good fortune if you have a benefic on that. It doesn't mean that everything's going to be screwed, okay? Like, don't take that and be like, oh no, I have Venus in Libra, everything's going to go wrong. I'm never going to be like create harmony again. It's not what it means. You still have those abilities. You still have to work through that. It just means that there may be some situations where you may have to work a little extra hard. Like, you may have to be Saturnian about it. You may have to be patient. You may have to work through this one day at a time. It also means that we can increase the negativity of a malefic planet on the north node. So if you have like Mars or like Saturn in Aries or something like that, that could also increase some of the challenges that those planets will present. Now, that being said, not every malefic functions as a terrible experience in every person's chart. If you have Mars and Aries in a night chart, that could be, and it's in a good house, that could be a functional benefic planet. So that could increase some of your abilities around Mars and Aries. Do you see where I'm heading with this? It's complicated. This is a really great technique that I've learned from the Project Hindsight lectures and Robert Schmidt, is that concept of like being able to figure out whether a planet is actually working in your favor in a chart or not, based on its condition, based on its house placement, and based on its relationships with other planets. So, there is no one size fits all answer for this. The other thing that's interesting to think about with this nodal arrangement is if you have a malefic planet in, like, let's say we have Mars in Libra, which is a really difficult position for Mars. The south node being on it may reduce some of the challenges that you're dealing with that. I mean, I had a really interesting Mars south node conjunction in my 7th house a few years back. And that actually, there was an eclipse around that as well. That was a pivotal moment of being released from a nemesis that I had in my life. A really challenging person in my life was kind of, it left my life, And so that was Mars in near the south node, a reduction of conflict. So you think about it in those terms, then you can really start applying that to your chart and your planets. And of course, if you need guidance with this, I'd be happy to schedule a reading with you and work it out with you. So I'm going to look at the chat here. I hope that answers some of the questions that we're getting in there. We'll also talk about Pluto squaring these nodes, which is important. We don't want to skip over that because that's a really big part of the week that's coming up after this new moon. Let me look through the chat. Kate says, funny how we're switching from Venus North Node to Mars. Well, yes, good point. And to Mars North Node while Venus changes gears and Mars moves forward. It's really interesting to see the difference in the ruling planet of the nodes here. Dimfy says there's an AI summit this afternoon and in the weekend as well. Okay, good. Yeah, I think it's really, really, really important that we are responsible with our new technologies. I'm not anti-technology. I'm a little bit of a Luddite as far as like I don't always adopt new technologies right away, but often that's because I want to think about the ramifications of my actions of starting to use that technology. And AI is we're trying to develop it very, very quickly, possibly without considering the ramifications of our actions. And it's good that people are starting to have these conversations because it is an extremely powerful tool and it is getting more powerful by the minute. And we may need to kind of slow our roll a little bit and say, well, just because we can doesn't mean we should. And what does this mean? What does this mean for people's jobs? What does this mean for people's identities? What does this mean for the future of the human species? So it's good to start having these conversations. It's good to think about whether it's necessary to put safeguards in place, because artificial intelligence, honestly, it could easily become its own thing, its own consciousness, if it isn't already. And we're basically creating a new life form, and a new life form that could potentially harm us. So we have to really be careful about how we're working through that. It also has the potential to heal a lot of things as well. So every tool, and AI is at this point as a tool rather than an entity, I think. It all has pluses and minuses, and we just need to learn how to use it ethically. And that's challenging because not everybody in the world is ethical. Like not everybody are operating in good faith, and we have to figure out how to put safeguards in place so that people who aren't operating in good faith don't use it against the masses or whatnot. So a lot of things to think about. We're at a really interesting tipping point here. Dimfy says, need to know a little bit to comprehend the AI to understand what is going on. Yes, so Dimfy's talking about Pluto and Aquarius related to AI. It is definitely, that is going to be the big challenge of Pluto and Aquarius, or one of the challenges, I think, for sure. And Pluto will go back into Aquarius in January. So I think we have some time, but not a lot. Like there are some people, some scientists that are saying that AI could have a human IQ of 1600 by early next year. That's insane. That's like, 10 times more than the geniuses that we have. And we don't know what it might do. It might say, you know what, human beings, you're detrimental to this planet. You don't belong here anymore. That's what we want to avoid with this, right? So we have to be careful with all of this. It also could be like, hey, human beings, here's ways to solve a lot of your problems. And maybe there's a relationship that we can build with it that is positive. Fuzzy Angel Portraits by Meredith is here. Says, stopping in a little late from Maine. Nice to see you. Enjoying the discussion while painting pet portraits today. Oh, yay. Those are some of my favorite things. I love pet portraits. I have some cats that I enjoy. I have a portrait that was sent to me from another pet painter that I love. So it's good stuff. You're doing the Lord's work there, friend. El Nash says, the nodal shift will be interesting for me as a brand new parent. The North Node is going into my 10th and the South Node my 4th. Not sure how that's going to play out. Well, we'll talk about it. I will take the new moon through the houses, and we can talk about the nodal shift through the houses as we move through the show today. I'm just reading through some of these things. Carol is here. I says, hi, Spencer. I have Chiron sitting on my Jupiter in Aries. So you're going to have an increase maybe in potentially in good fortune, Carol, with the North Node going over your Jupiter. But also Chiron could bring up some challenges about your individuation or your being a visible individual. That might be part of the things where you may have an increase in your profile, or your independence, or your sovereignty, but that also might be something that could bring up some anxiety, and you'll just have to kind of work through that. That's kind of that Chiron energy on some levels, a wound that needs healing. Oh yeah, Mars and Libra too. Well, that, Carol, that sounds like this is a good shift for you then. Reducing some of that needing permission from other people and just getting to it. And what I will say for those of you who are a little nervous about striking out on your own, oftentimes the pain that we feel from not doing that is worse than actually doing something and making a mistake. So sometimes we can take an action and eventually it'll lead us to a similar, or quote unquote the right answer, even if we fail a couple times. This is a risk-taking North Node. We might be really inclined to take more risks than we normally would, and those can really pay off. It's very difficult for something to expand into personal sovereignty and power if we don't take a risk to do so. That being said, sometimes we do have some things to lose, so we have to be careful about that. But again, I think that you can kind of circle back around even if the first action that you take doesn't work, right? You can always shift gears. Dimphy has Mars in Libra too. Okay, in a nocturnal chart. So Dimphy, this might be a nice shift for you. Let's see. Yeah, Pluto square the nodes feels heavy, says Kate. Yes. Yeah, we'll get to that. It does feel heavy. We will talk about that. Monique says, my son's food allergy immunotherapy is powered by AI. So there you go. Monique is showing us one of the positive signs of AI. Like, with these types of really powerful intelligences, it could bring us some solutions to some really challenging issues that will improve the quality of our life. So again, we don't want to judge something as quote unquote good or bad to the extreme right away, but we do need to understand and put limitations within it. We need the Saturnian boundaries to it. We don't want to say AI is terrible. We don't want to use it at all, because then like people like Monique and Brody might not get some of the medicine that they need, or the food and knowledge that they need. So it can be used to alleviate suffering, but again, we just really have to be careful about how we utilize our tools and put those safeguards in place. Yeah, Dimphy is, I think, echoing some of the thoughts that we have here. Chaylee is here. Hello, Chaylee. Kate says, sometimes it's hard for me to reconcile that people aren't ethical or that they choose to do harm. Yeah, amen to that, Kate. That's a toughie. It's really there, and it's true. Not everybody does have other people's best interests in mind. Some people are very out of balance and out of whack and have very selfish desires. Some of that comes from their own hurt and their own trauma, but someone who has trauma, that doesn't justify them hurting other people. So this is why we have safeguards in place. This is why we have like laws and rules around things, so that the people that don't have good intentions might not be able to hurt other people. And there's always arguments about what is a good intention, what is a good law, and things like that. And we're always going to be debating that. And we always think we should, because those things are going to change, right? What was the right answer and what was the right law in the past might not be the right law in the present or in the future. We have to be flexible. I'm just reading through here. Carol says, God, I'm a natural risk taker and never paid heed to permissions from others. Well, then you are figuring out how to work with some of the challenging planets in your life, Carol. Good for you. Painted Turtle says, AI as a tool for exploring consciousness, I have to question. Isn't astrology already an amazing tool for that? Yeah, but also consider, I don't know. If I tried to claim I was an expert on all the things that AI could do or not do, I would probably not be completely honest. So I'm not an artificial intelligence scientist, but I do kind of see the big picture sometimes. And I think that even as astrologers, we need to be really careful about this technology, because there's a lot of people that are like, well, why don't we just create an artificial intelligence astrology app, and then we won't have to pay astrologers, or we won't have to. So a lot of our jobs are at risk right now. Writers, actors, astrologers, many different industries could be taken over by AI, and that could leave a lot of people in a difficult spot. And on some level, maybe there's some jobs that we can hand over, with also the types of changes to communal resources to be able to allow people to survive if they lose their jobs, right? So I don't know. That's a much longer debate, so I can't unpack all of that here today, but we should keep having the conversation. Mad Hippie's Life is here. It says, hi, all energy feels a bit heavy. Yeah, this is kind of the balsamic moon energy with the, and then we're seeing the node squaring Pluto. Definitely is a strange moment sometimes. Beth says, my soon-to-be ex-husband is Libra rising with Aries stellium. My Aquarius sun moon is interested in how that will manifest in the nodal shift. Well, he just got divorced, so he has a north node increasing his first house of independence, and reducing and letting go of the old relationship, and sometimes that takes time, right? So we'll see. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Pluto at the bending of the nodes, because that is part of this lunation cycle. And this is going to happen a couple times over the week ahead. Because of the way that Pluto is moving and the nodes are retrograding, there's going to be like 3 hits of this that are going to happen over the course of the week after the new moon. And anytime you have a planet squaring the nodes, to me, it's a turning point. You know, so we're moving, it's like a full moon type of experience, right? It is seeing something where we're seeing a shift from maybe to decrease to increase here at Pluto. So we may be starting to move towards, I hate saying this, I don't want to call this into existence, but I do think that there will be more global conflicts as Pluto squares the nodes and starts moving towards the north node in Aries, unfortunately. It could also be that we are moving towards initiating new technologies. We're initiating new ways of being as a society. So we'll have to see how we can reconcile the new with what we want to preserve. This is always a big question politically and globally, is conserving some values from the past but also embracing the needs of the future. And people have a lot of disagreements about what should be preserved and what shouldn't. So we'll have to see how it's going to play out. I think that Pluto represents wealth. I think that the North Node, the Capricorn 3 is really bureaucratic systems. So I do think that there's going to be some tension with wealth and bureaucratic systems. We've seen this even playing out with the writers and actors strike, as they want to be paid commensurately and paid appropriately, and they are exposing the corruption in the Hollywood film system, as far as like exploiting those actors without paying them commensurate with their talent or ability or whatever it is. So we're going to see more of these things. I would not be surprised to see more strikes happen in different areas of the world, because really we have an imbalance between the haves and the have-nots right now. And that is also an important feature of the Cancer 3 Decan new moon, is how much is enough? How much is, scarcity versus luxury? Like if we've become satiated, what do we do with the excess? In our modern society right now, there are certain individuals that are hoarding excess, and a lot of people are suffering because of that hoarding, and that gap between the richest people in the world and the poorest people has gotten wider and wider and wider very quickly.
So this might be another thing that we're experiencing, is how do we close the wealth gap and distribute resources in a more fair fashion? Because at the end of the day, how many yachts do you need? How many villas do you need in the Mediterranean or something like that? Like, when we're talking about these multi billionaires, there's just a point of diminishing returns. And that is another theme that we talk about with Cancer 3, the point of diminishing returns. So we will be reconciling probably with the challenges of greed, the challenges of certain countries, certain people who have maybe taken more of their fair share. I do think the North Node in Aries could also speak to like revolutions. So people trying to overthrow corrupt governments that have taken on more of their fair share or have oppressed people through various means. We're already seeing that starting to brew in places like France. So if you're like, I don't know, the Europeans are aware of this, but if you're American and you don't watch foreign news, there's been a lot of challenges in France with the people starting to uprise against their government and the corruption that they view within the government. So, and we've seen this in places like, Britain as well. Like, we have a few English folks here today, and there's been a lot of challenges like with all of those things. So, I don't have a great answer to all of it. So I'm just one guy on the internet looking at some charts. But I want you to understand the types of themes that we're going to be looking at. And what I would encourage you to do during this time is, I want you to get curious. I want you to start asking these questions. I want you to start looking into these things, and I want you to educate yourself. I want you to understand global dynamics. I want you to understand economic dynamics between nations, people, governments, individuals. I want you to understand how the history of how this all came to be and where we might be going. It's very important to understand our history so that we know where we're going. So that curiosity is going to be very important. In your individual life, there may be some times now where the North Node, if we talk about it in the third decan of Aries, that decan is Venus ruled. So we may be trying to get people on board with our vision. That's where we are trying to convince people to say, I have a really great idea. Wouldn't it be great if you got on board on the train with us? Like, there's a spirit in that decan called Eros. So Eros also has two types of arrows. Okay, Eros is like the little Cupid, cherub deity type. And he has gold-tipped arrows, which are powerfully attractive. And he has lead-tipped arrows, which are very repellent. So I want you to be very careful about how you utilize your energy and your passion, and whether you are attracting people to your cause or whether you are repelling people. And both have value. Okay, sometimes you want to repel something. Okay, something that's toxic or something that's abusive or something like that. But I think it's really important to understand with this third decan of Aries that, I've been talking to a friend, and sometimes you catch more flies with honey, right? Sometimes you have to compliment sandwich people, even if you're trying to get your agenda across, even if you're trying to get people on board with your vision and cooperation. This is one thing I've been thinking a lot about in the last few weeks. I'm going through the process of feeling my grief and anger and disappointment at the state that we're in regards to the environment with climate change. Some of that is leaked out as like negativity. And what I'm thinking about is, how do I shift this narrative to make it attractive to make the changes that we need to make? How do I call people in? Part of that, just if you want to peek behind the curtain, part of that is like, I'm going to post beautiful pictures of my pollinator habitat and say, look, here's a beautiful thing that I've created that also will hopefully be an oasis for these plants, animals, insects, etc. So how do we make change? And how do we make sometimes reducing our dependence on comfort and on convenience? How do we make that sexy? How do we make it attractive to be like, we're going to go through some tough times, but here are the advantages of this. And I want you to think about this in your own life, right? How do you make a difficult change attractive to the people in your life? Instead of saying, this is terrible. This sucks. You're wrong for this. You're an asshole for never not doing what I wanted you to do for this time. Oh, it's your fault. Pointing fingers, blah, 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 blah. That's what that's going to do, is shut people down. And it's not going to get people on your side. And I know I've lost a few followers in the last week or two. And I'm sure it's probably because I've been starting to ring the bell a little bit louder for some of these things that are very important to me and I think are very important for the collective. And that's okay. But I think that how do we shift the calling in as we also acknowledge the challenges that we're going through? Because I've found in my life that that is so powerful. That is so powerful to be able to show people, hey, you know, this there's good in this. There's a reason to change. There's challenges that we're going to face, and we have to acknowledge the pain, okay? But there's some beauty that we can create here as well. I'm going to check back in the chat. I hope that was clear. Monique says, we've evolved as a society, though, through so much. I'm optimistic. We just have to stay aware and mindful. Yes, I agree, Monique. Human beings are amazingly adaptive, and we need to stay adaptive, because the change point that we're at right now is it's intense, it's powerful, it's very important. We've all been born into this time period for a reason, I think, and the decisions we make now are really gonna, we're at a tipping point, right? That's what Pluto here to me, and the bending of the nodes, this is a tipping point. Are we gonna make the changes that we need to make to continue to thrive and survive, or are we going to lead ourselves to destruction? And those are the choices we still get to make. I said this on a interview I did. I recently did an interview for Leo season on the Energetic Principles podcast. Check that out. It's coming out soon. And I was talking about I read an article about complacency with like wildfire smoke or things like that, or like these climate disasters. I do think there's some level of acceptance of what we're going through, but also we don't want to get complacent to the fact where we're like, oh, this is our new normal, because it doesn't have to be, or at least it doesn't have to be in this completely dystopian way. As long as we take action, as long as we say, okay, like, you know, we're ready to make those changes. So yes, Monique, we can work together towards a more fruitful and vibrant future. Haley, is it Haley with a C? Is it a silent C? I'm just trying to pronounce your name correctly, friend. It says, in my natal chart, my sun, moon, Venus, and rising, and Lilith are all squared in my nodes. Yeah, so you've probably had a lot of choices that you've had to make in your life that felt significant. I have the moon at the bending of the nodes, so I've had a lot of lunar significations where I've had to make choices one way or the other, and a lot of it has been done publicly, like with my career. I completely changed careers in the middle of my life, from being a musician to doing this work that I'm doing today. Kate says, 9th house moon here. I have concerns based on the last go around, but currently grasping at ways to educate astrologically and spiritually. I anticipate this narrative will continue. Good. So you're having an increase in your 9th house, and you're a Leo rising like me. So I'm feeling also the coming pull to continue to educate and to share my beliefs, to share what really motivates me. To me, I have a legacy to uphold from my family. I had people who are professors of conservation and biology, and my great-grandfather was a steward of the Indiana state parks. He lived in the state parks for periods of time and taught, he took people on nature walks and educated people on all the beautiful species of birds and plants and trees. And he actually, I don't know if I've told you this on this channel, but my great-grandfather, his name is Howard Michaud, he received a Lifetime Achievement Award from Al Gore at the White House for his efforts in conservation. He was in meetings with people like Aldo Leopold and like John Muir and people like that. And I really take that seriously, and just really, really look up to the work that he did, you know? So yeah, if you're feeling an increase like Leo rising and wanting to teach and share something that's really important to you, that might be part of this nodal shift. Monique says, greed is a huge issue right now. No one is getting paid enough versus the cost of living increasing. Yes, that is a problem. the minimum wage has not kept up with the rate of inflation, and inflation continues to increase, and our basic needs aren't being met. So I agree with you, Monique. I think there needs to be changes on that soon, immediately. Kate says, last time, 2004, 2006, was working 3 jobs and killing it while destroying my body, paid a high price. This time, trying to lay foundation for independent work, but money is not my outcome focus this time. Yeah, that's a good point, Kate. You know, when we are snapping into action, Aries style, we do have to be careful to take care of our bodies and to pace ourselves. Remember, Aries is the cardinal sign of spring. It's like it's trying to force, it's a yang energy that's trying to force its way through the soil, the little seedling, right? But it's not always a sustainable energy. So we have to learn to pace ourselves. We can experience burnout with this nodal axis shift. And, you know, Kate, you're doing the right work of going back and looking at the time in your life and maybe learning a lesson from it so you can make an adjustment moving forward. Callie on the beach. So classic. I'm just one guy on the internet. I'll be quoting that line, Spencer. Good. Well, I mean, in some respects, it's true. In other respects, like I have a platform here to be able to speak my mind and to share my thoughts and hopefully to serve my community. So we all have different levels of reach, but don't underestimate your voice, even if it is just one voice, even if it is just in your own family or in your own community. There's good that you can do by speaking up and sharing your hope for the future. And, you know, Sophie Strand's book, The Flowering Wand, really gave me a lot of language to speak on with this. And I think I need to just read it like 4 more times. But one of the methods that she talks about to get over some of these challenges is just working through a sense of awe and wonder. Like going through, like this morning, I centered myself after a long, challenging week by going out and just appreciating the beauty of the flowers and the trees. There's a reason why I'm getting so upset at climate change, because like I love this planet. Sorry, I'm getting emotional. I just, it's so beautiful. It's like there's so much beauty here worth protecting, and it's worth making the changes that we need to make. And there's so much life and so many life forms that our actions have an effect on, and we need to be responsible taking care of them. You know, we are so powerful as a species, and we need to use that power wisely. It's that Spider-Man thing that, you know, with great power comes great responsibility. So when you hear me get fired up, when you hear me getting upset or angry, it's coming from this deep love for our communities, for our, you know, animal friends, for our trees, for our flowers. And if you go out and you connect in that way with nature, that will be the inspiration that you need to do the hard work of making changes in your life and advocating for those changes on a more macrocosmic level, which we need to do as well. It's not just recycling and things like that. We need to make changes on a larger scale as well. All those other little actions are good, though. Don't think that your actions don't matter. They do. Okay. Kate says, I think this is all a little bit about finding that community, the other pollinators, so to speak, with Spencer's bee analogy. Yeah, finding the people that you can join together with and become more powerful together, for sure. Kate says, speaking to Monique's comment, I think many people have reprioritized what resources are necessary for them to thrive as well. Okay, we are going to have to reprioritize it. In America, we are used to a certain level of affluence, even if some of us are on the poverty line in America, compared to some other countries, we're still living pretty well, you know, and that's something that is not fair. Like we've consolidated a lot of wealth in this country at the expense of other countries. And I saw an article the other day about some people in Washington, D.C. being like, we will absolutely not give reparations to countries that have basically that we've exploited and are suffering from climate change. And I think that that's short-sighted. Like if you think about like places like Latin America and Africa, there's a lot of rainforest there, and we need to be able to support these communities so that the oxygen, literally the oxygen that those places create, that we will be able to breathe in the future. If those places disappear through the folks that live there not having the resources to maintain those things, we're really hurting ourselves. That's what we need to understand here, is that we're all connected. This is what you learn when you start to garden. This is what you learn when you learn about mycelium and mushrooms, is the interconnectedness of life, and how when we do something for someone else, we are also doing it for ourselves. It's so important, right? Like, it's so important to keep understanding that. Right? I'm just reading through the comments here. You guys all have such great ideas. I'm trying to keep up with everything. Kate says, I went for a walk with my camera and had those same emotional feelings of appreciation. I photographed all these tiny little things. Oh, it's so, yeah, the beauty is astounding, Kate. I agree. It is. Yes, she says, took me 2 hours to get down the 20 foot down the trail. Yeah, there's so much beauty even just in like 1 square foot of your backyard. You know, scale is something that I think we need to start to appreciate more. Like, there's universes in that little beautiful square patch of yard or whatever it is, wildflower, nature. And appreciation is the first step, because if we don't appreciate what we have, we won't take the necessary steps to protect it or to change the actions that are affecting that beauty. Carolyn says, look into the exploitation of developing countries that comes with mining the minerals required for electric vehicles, especially child labor and toxicity to miners. Yeah, that's a great point, Carolyn. There's so many pluses and minuses to the changes that we're making, and it can be really overwhelming at times. But I do think that you're asking the right questions. I think that we do, even sometimes the things that appear to be sustainable might have drawbacks, and we have to continue to ask questions to create sustainability. We don't want to get fixated on one solution. This is where the flexibility is going to have to come in as we go through this Pluto squaring the nodes. Okay, friends, I'm going to take a stretch break here. Let's take this opportunity to stretch our legs. Please, if you are enjoying the talk today, I know we got into more serious topics, but life is serious right now. There's just a lot of really big challenges that we're going through as a community, and we can't be afraid to talk about it. It takes courage to talk about these things. What is very easy is to ignore it. What is very easy is to keep doing everything that you've been doing because it's comfortable, because you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, or you're trying to fit in to which is what is a toxic mindset. I think a lot of times people take actions because they want to fit into their communities, and a lot of our communities right now have perpetuated beliefs, especially in the country that I live in. I love my country, don't get me wrong. I love this country, but it's been built on a lot of challenging things, and we need to acknowledge that and challenge our own beliefs and keep the conversation going. But again, here's another thing that I will say about all of this. You have to be careful about insisting that other people follow you. I run into this challenge quite a bit. As a Leo rising, this is something to consider if you have a lot of Leo placements. True leadership is leading by example, and getting people on board with your vision by showing how your direction is going to benefit them, okay, not just you. So how can you be an example? How can you share your love of nature and encourage people? Like this, here's an easy one. This is the easiest thing ever. Stop glamorizing your lawn. Get rid of the chemicals that you put on your lawn. That's an easy thing, right? Start ripping out some of that yard and put in native pollinators, because it's so gorgeous. It's so less boring than yard. I mean, you can keep a little patch of it, but lawn is a representation of an old way of thinking, where people in I don't know, Europe or whatever, or in America obviously too, because we're obsessed with our lawns here. They thought about lawns as status symbols. Because if you had enough land to be able to, not grow food on it, you were wealthy. And we need to get past that mindset. Even if we have enough to not grow food on it, we need to give over some of that and share that with the other creatures that need it. Because we're by every day, every week, every minute, we're destroying more habitat. We're expanding as a population. Some of this is the challenge of a rapidly expanding population. Like, I believe that there are 8 billion people on the earth now, and there were like something like 2.5 billion people only a few decades ago. So part of this is just trying to figure out how to work and live with all of these other creatures. But that's a super easy thing to do. Just stop spraying your lawn with crap. It's poison. And it's not worth it. And you can create so much more beauty. Take a look at my stories on Instagram. To me, that's so much more beautiful than like just a chem lawn, and show people what it looks like when you're making these changes and the joy it can bring you. All right, friends, we're stretching. Do me a favor, like this video, subscribe to the channel. Try not to unsubscribe right away if you don't agree with me. It's okay to hold opposing viewpoints in certain things. I'm open to discussing things with people that I don't agree with. Sometimes we'll agree to disagree. But let's try not to get ourselves into the echo chambers that happen sometimes online. It's okay to have people that have a different view. We want to be able to have some healthy debate every once in a while. So subscribe to the newsletter. Again, I have some stuff for sale going on with the Decans webinars and things of that nature. And I'm going to show you a little bit about that today. I'm checking in with the chat. You all are so intelligent. I love seeing all the things that you put in here. Kate says, I'm ready to carve out a new way of doing things. Well, Kate, you and me both, friends. Let's do it together, and we'll support each other on that journey. Carolyn says, lawn is good for kids to play, dogs to poop, etc. A bit of lawn is actually almost a necessity at certain times of life. I'm not going to disagree with that, Carolyn. I think that's an interesting perspective, but we don't need acres and acres and acres of it, and we don't need to spray it with chemicals. There's no advantages to that. It causes cancer. It gets in our water system. It poisons us. It's not healthy. And we need to get less attached to things looking perfect, looking a certain way, looking like some Martha Stewart article or something like that. And I'll tell you, we need to change our idea of what beauty is. To me, a wild field is gorgeous. To me, wildflowers are so much more beautiful than lawn. So there are ways that we can have places for kids to play that aren't filled with Roundup and glucosamine or whatever that is, glyphosate, I think that's what it's called, because you're letting kids play on a toxic waste field, basically. So if you do really care about the kids, you're not going to spray it with a bunch of toxic chemicals. But again, we have to keep having these conversations because a lot of these beliefs are ingrained a long time. But Carolyn, I'm not going to fault you for having some lawn for your kids or your grandkids to play on. I'm probably going to keep just a little patch of yard, but not much. But my kids are grown. So Rose T says, one of my friends has a garden that looks so beautiful where she put a surprise flower near her vegetables and she started using copper wires going to the ground. Nice. Okay. Surprise flowers. I like it. Brody would like a shout out, says Monique. What's up, Brody? How you doing, buddy? So we have two young friends that tune in with their mom, Monique. Brody, how you doing, friend? I hope that you're doing well and having a good day. And Lindsay, if you're there too, you're famous. You're famous now on the Spencer Michaud Astrology channel. our little Leo friend. Okay. Rose T says the wires go to the ground and made her plants dying bloom and attracted more birds. Oh, that's interesting. You have to tell me more about that, Rose, about the grounding wire. That's cool. Carolyn says, I would never spray a lawn. Good. Well, there you go. Then you're already ahead of the game. But many people would. So, and there's many people even in my own neighborhood that are still doing it. And my neighborhood is super progressive about changing lawn into wildflower pollinator habitat. So we have to keep having the conversation because there's a lot of people that are still think that that's the way to have a lawn. Yvette says 100% would love to, but I kill everything, no green thumb around here. That's the beauty of doing natural pollinator habitats, is that they actually don't require a lot of maintenance. You can kind of just plant them, and you don't really have to water it all that much. After a few months, you don't even have to weed it. If you do it properly, and we can talk about this later, but if you plant a nurse crop of grass seed with wildflowers that are native to your area, the nurse crop will fall away as the pollinators become more established, and then they kind of just do their own thing. You don't really have to do anything. Like, that's the beauty of nature. We don't always have to do something. We just have to be stewards. We have to be facilitators. So this is something that we can, that's the thing. Like, as we talk more about these changes that we make, there's a lot of times since we haven't engaged with it, we may not know how easy it actually is. And by having the conversations as a group, we can continue to kind of educate and encourage each other. And I don't know, I have in my Discord that I have for my guided group study, I always have a plants and gardens and animal companions section for people to share their efforts. And I've been so inspired by the efforts that people have been making in our group to grow their own food, to plant flowers, and to change their habitats and their habits. It's been really beautiful to see, and it's really inspiring to me. So there's room for that. Okay. Yeah, I hope you do look into that more, Yvette. I think that there's this deep satisfaction that comes with connecting with the earth. I will tell you, on my birthday, after I don't know if I shared this with all of you, and I'll get to the taking the new moon through the houses, but allow me this story. After I had my birthday live stream with all of you, I went for a walk in the woods, and I was feeling really connected with the earth. I was feeling really connected with my garden, with the flowers and things like that. And I was having a Disney princess moment. Like the solar return, there was something special about that day. I ran into like a squirrel that came up and like interacted with me. There were a few dogs that I met along the path. There was one dog that was a rescue dog, and I took the time to gently approach that dog, and it allowed me to pet it. And the owner was like, "This dog," and I know the owner, and she's like, "This is a new dog, and he doesn't let anyone pet him." And so it was a nice experience of just talking gently and approaching them with kindness. We saw a deer, and the deer wasn't freaked out. I was surrounded by butterflies in the woods. A butterfly landed on my hand and was like kept coming back and was like buzzing at me, and that was a nice little. I think it was a little message from my mom. To be honest with you, my mom really loved butterflies, and I think she was saying hi on my birthday. I can't even remember. There's so many. It was just one walk. It was just so much, like everything was just humming with life, and I was just completely in it. Does that make sense? Connected to it, because we are not separate from this, friends. We are not some other thing. We are the earth. We are part of it. And when we start to understand that it is us and we are it, we'll stop treating it so horribly, I think. Okay. Kate says, I saw home posted signs, please don't spray, to avert local town spraying chemicals. I've never seen anyone do that before. Yeah. And that's another thing. Like, there's a lot of situations where people are, like, local town governments are spraying various things, and maybe you can go to a town meeting and speak up and say, why do we need this? Like, let's try something else that'll create beauty. I follow this account on Instagram of this guy in San Francisco who's like a guerrilla wildflower seed spreader. And he has these like wildflower mixes, these native wildflower mixes, and he puts them in like this like shaker, and he goes on a skateboard and he just is shaking them in like medians of the road and like all of these different places where there's just nothing. And he's just spreading a little beauty. He's like a Johnny Wild seed guy. Something. I love it. So there's so many things that you can do. Just keep asking the questions, and don't feel bad if you're just at the beginning of this journey, or if some of these habits have been ingrained from a long period of time. We were raised on some of these beliefs, and it's hard to go against the grain. It's hard to go against the current. swim against the stream of seeing what everyone else is doing and trying to make change, that's where your bravery comes in. That's where your courage comes in. And yeah, I love the wildflower seed bomb thing too, Kate. Okay, let's talk a little bit about, I'm just going to show you very briefly my Decans of Cancer webinar. And we'll talk just a little bit more about Cancer 3. I think we've done a little bit of it here, but this webinar is on sale for a few more, about a week or so, another week. So pick it up if you want to learn more. But themes of Cancer 3. Okay, this card is the Four of Cups, and you saw that I used the advertisement. I was pretty proud of that. I made that from scratch in Canva and made a version of this card in the advertisement for this show today. It's a moon ruled decan, so very lunar. It is called the Lord of Luxury in the Book of Thoth and the Lord of Blended Pleasure in Book T. Austin Coppock calls it the Overflowing Cup, right? We have T. Susan Chang in 36 Secrets, which is another amazing book. I really just love her work. She calls this decan Refusing the Call. Okay, sometimes this is like a trope in the hero's journey where we're like, I don't want to go do this. And you see that in Cancer, the story of Achilles, where Achilles refused the call of going to war until he was roused to action through trauma, through losing his best friend, basically, or his lover in some stories. Okay, like he through that trauma, he was roused from sitting on in his tent in the beach and said, I have to go fight. I have to get involved. So this is this can be a Cancerian trait, is that sometimes we'll sit by and observe until, something really hurts us and on a deep level, then we have to get involved and start protecting things. So themes in this particular decan, surplus versus scarcity, as we've been talking about. You can think of this decan as a place where you got all your needs met and you're just like feeling this boredom, this divine discontent where you're like, I'm full. What do I do now? It's just, I also think of this as a pregnant pause before we move from getting our base needs met to maybe going up that ladder of hierarchy of needs to finding purpose, to finding meaning. Okay, it's hard to pursue a philosophical purpose when you aren't able to feed yourself. Okay, like this is something we don't understand. We're just like, oh well, why didn't this person have this higher meaning? Well, maybe they're just struggling to make ends meet. So this is the point where we've maybe made the ends meet, and then we're seeking something bigger, more eternal, maybe. Okay, so apathy, jadedness, and boredom can be part of this. I have Mercury in this decan. So again, a lot of the themes that I talk about in this channel are really trying to communicate the ideas of scarcity versus surplus and abundance versus, all of the things of what we do with that. But I think I've learned with this decan that sometimes when I feel like I'm over something, that's a good signal for me to sit with it for a while. It's the pregnant pause, okay? This is where we need to kind of like let our body and our intuition guide us towards the next inspiration. And sometimes you have to empty your cup, right? Sometimes you have to say, I'm so full, I don't need anymore. I need to actually get rid of stuff. One of the cards I got today, I pull a number of cards for divinatory purposes, it said clear the clutter. And this to me is a clear the clutter type of card where you just have so many things that you're just like, all right, I need to just make some space for stuff. This decan can also represent luxurious tastes. There's some folks, sometimes myself included, I have had this struggle with food. I really enjoy food, and sometimes more is more for me when I like something. Thankfully I've been blessed with a fairly fast metabolism, but as I grow older, I'm having to really pare down the portions that I eat so that I stay in a healthy state. So in this particular instance, we may desire more than we are capable of. We may have what we need to survive, but we may want and desire more. So that's also something. Like if you have like a malefic in this planet, or even a benefic, sometimes you can, like if you have Venus in this decan, maybe you really have luxurious taste, and like the basic thing will just not do type of thing. The point of diminishing returns, that's a really important point. And that's really going to inform this lunation, I think, is we all are going to have to ask ourselves, how much is enough? And maybe we don't have enough and we need to work on creating more abundance. But maybe we do, and the abundance, if it's physical abundance, like if it's food, for example, like Tanya and I have been having these conversations where she's saying now, like, I get to the point where I have a hard stop with my appetite. And wasn't like this in the past. Like, so she was like, there's a point where I'm just like, I just can't eat another bite. And that to me is very Cancer 3. That's very much like, I've just had enough. If I eat anymore, it's actually going to make me sick. Okay. So I think if we bring that into the macrocosm, we're at a tipping point in our society right now too, where in certain places in society, we've had enough and it's not really making us happy. We get sold the idea that that it will make us happy. But we have to think about when to say no and to say, this is my limit. This is going to make me this. If I take in any more of this, even if it's good, even if it tastes good, even if it is even if it's healthy, we can go overboard, right? And it sometimes what started out as healthy can become toxic over time. This is what you see in that Taoist symbol of the yin yang, right? Where there's a little bit of the light and the dark and the light, and are constantly flowing into one another. And if you go to an extreme, it starts turning into its opposite. So this is a lesson in balancing extremes as well. So questions you can ask yourself at this new moon. Where in your life are you feeling discontented? Where do you feel that like jaded apathy type of experience? Do you need more, or have you had enough? And enough, it doesn't have to be physical. It could be like, I've had enough of this idea. I've had enough of this job. I've had enough of this whatever, okay? So that's something to consider also. What do you do with your surpluses? I've also witnessed a lot of people who have prominent placements in this decan who have become very wealthy. And a lot of their life mission has centered around how to share their abundance with others. So that could be part of this as well. Is there a lull before a new breakthrough? So this is something to consider too. This is us getting ready to get into Leo season, where we're just like, I don't know what I want, but I'm just going to sit with it for a while. Let your intuition bubble up. Like the High Priestess, who is the tarot card associated with the moon. You don't necessarily have to think your way through this. Sometimes you feel your way through it. Sometimes you pause to allow it to bubble up. I think this is a great decan for like a vacation, like where you just sit somewhere and just stare off into the sky or into the woods or into the ocean or into the lake or wherever it is, and let those new ideas come to you if you are in a position to do so. And we all aren't, which I think is tragic, but there is definitely ways that you can take a time out at any point in your life, I hope. And if you can, that's a whole nother discussion. How can you reconnect with your passion? That's important because the transition from the Four of Cups decan to the Leo 1 decan really is a transition from this apathy, boredom, jadedness to an intense, like, I feel this inspiration, this like, oh, I'm ready to do this. Let's fight for what we want, for our authentic expression. Okay, so this might be just the pause before it's go time. How can you reconnect with passion? And there's that question again. And then what comes next? So, if we don't ever slow down, if we don't ever take time to reflect, which is another lunar / Cancerian signification, it's really hard for us to hear the voice of our own intuition, the voice of the divine, the voice of spirit. If you're any type of medium or something like that, it's really important to take some space and some solitude for yourself to be able to hear things without the extra noise. Okay, so maybe this something to do during this new moon is just to take some time, some quiet time, and see what bubbles up, see what comes up for you. So that's Cancer 3. We've got Hecate or Hecate as the spirit associated with this, and this is the triple goddess that a lot of Hecate, she's a goddess of the crossroads, transitions, right? But also we can see her as related to the different phases of the moon. Sometimes she's a life giver, but sometimes she takes away, just as the moon waxes and the moon wanes. So there's magic in this decan too. There's an ability to be able to be a torch bearer. Hecate was a guide for Demeter into the underworld to help find Persephone. So maybe we're lighting the way. Maybe you can light the way during this period of time as well. Okay, and you can check this out as we go forward. I think that, you know, that this is fairly close to the fixed star Pollux, which was one of the twins in Gemini. And thank you, Michelle, for the super sticker. I appreciate you. So this Pollux energy is really, it's the immortal twin who had to give up some of his immortality to breathe life into his brother Castor, who had been slain in a battle with another set of twins. So the wisdom of sacrifice is something we are talking about a lot today, and learning from difficult experiences. We're having a difficult collective experience right now. A lot of us are, and we need to learn from that and acknowledge it and then move forward. So having this new moon here, there may be something that we have to learn to give up so that someone else can have what they need to survive. And that's okay. There's grace in that. There's beauty in that. And we may also need support from somebody as well. And we have to learn to be open to receive that and find the humility to allow ourselves to be helped sometimes as well. So there's a dual nature to that. Oh, Yvette pulled the High Priestess and the Moon today. Very cool. Okay, so you're getting those messages today, Yvette. Michelle says, hi, Spencer and all. I can't stay, but wanted to hop on and say hello. Have a great weekend. Well, thank you, Michelle, for stopping in, and thank you for the super sticker. Definitely appreciate you. Kate says, I like this goddess, although I may be biased. Right, yeah. Kate, do you have a third decan Cancer sun, right? You have something in Cancer 3. But anyway, if you want to learn more about this, I go into depth with this in my Decans of Cancer webinar that's 20% off right now. So let's do this. Let's take another stretch. Please like and subscribe to the video. And then I will briefly go through the houses. Okay, I'll take the lunation through the houses. Can't spend too much time on that today. I still have to kind of go pick up my loving partner from work if I can make it out in time. We'll see. But make sure that you subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the email list. You can support me by purchasing the Decan and the Stars and Cards webinars, by signing up for a reading, donations. You can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com, or you can do a super chat or super sticker today. Let me stretch my back for a second. Ooh, you can hear that. Just trying to make sure that I move around. I've been sitting a lot in this work and spending a lot of time in front of the computer. And as we get older, we need to make sure we continue to move and we don't sit too long. Hello, Prudence. Nice to see you. Dear Prudence, won't you come out to play? Hey. It's a good chat, or a good song. I'm sure that you've never heard that before in your life. Oh man, it's a Beatles tune. It's good jam. Okay, let's go back and look at our chart here. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my sheets part of Astro Gold. And what I'm doing is I'm clicking on the sun sign wheels, and I'm going to save that. And then that's going to give me a document where I can look at all of the different sun signs. Actually, I need to do that one more time. I'm going to go back to the new moon because I moved it to where the nodes are. Bear with me one moment. Okay. All right, there it is. So we're just getting through all the technical stuff here. So I'm going to share this sun sign wheel. All right, can you all see that? So there's the sun sign wheel. And we'll zoom in. And we will start. I'm going to do what was suggested last week. We're going to start with Cancer, which is because Cancer is the where the sun is. So we're going to start with Cancer rising. So I know that I usually start with Aries rising, but I'm going to do things a little differently today, just because I think we need to shake it up. And then that will make it so that the people who have always been super patient aren't necessarily going to get the shaft about having to wait super long. Okay, so here is Cancer rising. And I'm going to try to move this so that we can, there it is. Y'all see this now? Okay, Cancer rising, this new moon is going to be in your first house. So you may be feeling a little full personally. You may be like, what is going on? I don't know who I want to be. I've had enough of this particular expression. I need to sit with myself a little bit and figure out what's going to be happening next. You're going to have the nodes moving into your 10th and 4th house axis, North node moving into your 10th house, seeing potentially an increased desire to put yourself out in the world and to increase your public self or what you share of yourself publicly. There may be some decreases in your home life. There may be some you may be moving, you may be downsizing. Maybe there's a family member or something that is, you're having responsibilities towards as well, since South Node is kind of a Saturn experience. And, there's this opposition with Mars and Saturn over the 3rd and 9th house axis, where you're maybe putting a lot of energy towards communicating or learning with your community, your local community, or you're learning a new set of studying. But it's also challenging your beliefs, and try to work through the perfection of your daily process, and realize that there is essence that is important. If your beliefs are strong, if your narratives are true, it will be easier to take action in your daily life. So try to get clear about what your beliefs are, and then that will lead you to be able to take action in your local day-to-day thing. Okay, again, we're going to go pretty quickly through these today. So, Leo rising. Let's find Leo here. Okay, Leo rising. You have a 12th house new moon. I'm just laughing because I'm just like, I'm a Leo rising, and it's time to rest, Leo. You've been grinding probably pretty hard with, you have Jupiter in your 10th house right now, doing a lot of expanding of your public self, your business, and all these things, which is good. And anything that you're doing in public spheres is positive. But it's probably been a lot, and it's a good time to rest. And this particular new moon could be an opportunity to take a nice time out before there's an enormous amount of action in your first house during Leo season. Okay, so make sure that you recharge the well excuse me, before you have the Venus retrograde in your first, before you have the sun squaring Uranus from your first to your 10th house. There's a lot of action coming for Leo ascendants and all the fixed ascendants, honestly. But Leo is going to feel this late July, early August period quite a bit. Now, the nodes are going to be shifting to your 9th and 3rd house. So there will be an increase, like we were talking about with Kate earlier, in your desire maybe to teach or to share your beliefs, or to maybe go on pilgrimages for purpose, to find meaning. There may be an increase in trying to share your particular worldview. I've been doing that on this channel recently. I've been sharing a lot more of my worldview. In the past, I would have maybe been a little bit more quiet about what my particular beliefs were, but I think I feel so strongly about this that I think it's important that I be more visible with what I believe and advocate for that, hopefully in a gentle way. Okay. And there may be a decrease in your local community. There may be like there may be some neighbors that are moving. Maybe you have less time to study because you're teaching or something like that. Like there could be some changes in your daily habits and routine where you have some commitments that you have to deal with around that and find balance with as well. So those are all things that are coming as well. The Mars Saturn opposition is over your 8th and 2nd house. So there may be some shifts in how either you are supporting someone else or how you are being supported. You may have to change some beliefs around what is possible for you. Maybe you've received a lot of support in the past, and now it's time to like rebalance the scales and maybe realize that you are capable of more than you may have thought in the past. With Jupiter in your 10th house, maybe there's something where you can start increasing your ability to like manifest resources, and that may bring some relief in your partnerships financially or something like that. Now, this could also be a stressful thing because you're probably putting a lot of attention towards, how you support yourself and your own skill set. And that can lead to a little bit of a conflict with the Mars-Saturn opposition. I mean, just in my own life, like I'm trying to take care of more responsibilities in my personal life, maybe even alleviate some of the burdens that my partner carries. And to do that, I need to put a lot more energy and effort into like my own classes or into my own offerings. Like with Jupiter in the 10th house, there's expansion coming with that. But there's tension with it, right? It requires releasing some limiting beliefs. I've had some beliefs around scarcity. Some of it is the ethical challenge of trying to become more a part of the monetary system that I don't completely agree with, like that being late stage capitalism. So I've had to shift my belief around that somewhat. Like I will say that the way that I've come to terms with it, because we all have to come to terms with this on some level. The line that I've drawn on the sand with this, and maybe this is helpful for you Leos, is that for Leos, we really have to believe in something before we are roused to action. I think that's the thing. And for me to like want to expand my offerings in the world and hence expand my material apertures to be able to receive abundance, I need to believe in what I'm doing. So that I've been really kind of saying like maybe me being more visible will have a purpose. Like I want to help alleviate more people's suffering. I want to maybe do more things maybe that involve nature or things like that as well, with like the book club with the flowering wand. I was really excited when I did that book because I was like, look, I think this is super important and I'm willing to open the aperture wider to be able to spread that message that I think is super important. And same thing with learning things like tarot and astrology. I believe in this work and its ability to help people find meaning. So, hold on 1 second. Sorry, we're on the, okay, it's done now. We are on a fire truck route here, so every once in a while the fire trucks will come by. But find what gives you meaning, and that will help you to expand your work out in the world. Okay, so that is Leo rising. Oh boy, hold on. All right, the fire truck has gone by now. I've tried to take a lot of actions towards finding peace and quiet in this space that we live in here. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to escape the fire trucks. So maybe peace of mind is an internal state rather than an external one. That's something to consider. Okay, Virgo rising. Virgo rising, you have this new moon in the 11th house. So this is a house associated with groups, with people that you share a sense of beliefs with people that will support your actions out in the world as well. This also is related to the money that you may receive or benefits you may receive from the government as well. So there could be something where you're working through government benefits and what is enough, or are you facing scarcity and maybe you need to apply for benefits or something like that. And thank you, Callie, for the super sticker today. I appreciate you. You are experiencing a nodal shift from really from your 3rd and 9th house to your 2nd and 8th house. You're going to be having the North Node increasing your your 8th house signification. So either your need to support other people, or it could also speak towards how you receive support from others. That's a lot of the challenges with the 8th house as well. You may find a decrease in your own individual resources, so you may need to learn how to team up with others, but also initiating partnerships could be something that Virgo risings could be doing right now as well. You are the lucky recipient of Mars opposite Saturn in your 1st house, which is that's difficult. So Virgo rising, hang in there, bud. Like, it's a tough time. You may want to make changes. You may want to let go of some things personally, but there may be some limitations coming through your partnerships that are making that difficult. You may be asking yourself a lot about challenges of form versus essence. And I do think that it is important to balance those two things out. At the end of the day, what a Virgo rising and Virgo placements want to do is I think, preserve things that are meaningful, and to be able to release things that have expired. Okay. Now, the way that you do that can be up for debate with an opposition with Mars and Saturn and Pisces here. Okay. So somebody who is experiencing this opposition, find meaning in what you're doing. And when you see the big picture and you see the narrative that is driving all of your actions, it's a lot easier to take the most efficient action. Okay. Sometimes Virgos can be very inefficient in parts of their life because they've gotten so granular in their focus. I, myself included, at having a Virgo stellium, I sometimes will get so fixated on the way something is done and the details of something that I'm missing the big picture. So pull out and see the big picture, and then go back and take care of the hard work necessary to bring that dream into fruition. Carolyn says, I used to live on a fire truck route, just blessing the situation and sent good energy. Good. It makes me feel good, Carolyn. Yeah, we need that. This neighborhood has I live in an interesting area. There's a lot of different socioeconomic statuses. There's a lot of challenges sometimes that come in this area. And I don't know. It's a beautiful town. I love it. And it's very progressive in a lot of ways. But everybody's dealing with some of the challenges that go back and forth sometimes. So thank you for those blessings. Yeah, Dawn says, goodness, sending some good energy to whoever they're going to assist. It's a daily occurrence. The fire trucks, the police cars, the ambulances down this route, and that's just the reality of it at this point. Okay, Virgo rising. I hope that you feel acknowledged and seen. Let's move on to Libra rising. All right, Libra rising, kind of a big one for you too. You have a 10th house, new moon. So Libra rising, this is a time period where you may be starting some new public endeavor. You may be starting some kind of project where you are sharing some of your wealth and abundance. That could be part of this. Or maybe you're receiving. It goes both ways in this decan. You are going to be experiencing a nodal shift from your 2nd and 8th house axis, to your 1st house and your 7th house. So this is the North Node moving into your 7th house, an increase in your need to maybe take a leadership or initiate a partnership. I know it's not extremely comfortable for you always to initiate Libra type folks, but you may find that you create harmony by either fighting for it or by taking the lead. Okay, you may be reducing your attachment to like a more selfish kind of experience. I guess that's not really the right word. A more self-centered experience. Oftentimes, when the nodes are in the 1st and 7th house, a lot of the time the South Node in the 1st house can be also related to like challenges with your body. like having to either remove something from your body or something like that. That could also be something to consider. So keep an eye out for that as well. The Mars-Saturn opposition is happening over your 12th and 6th house. So Mars is I have found in my experience, and this is just from my personal experience, that Mars in the 12th house makes it difficult to relax. And with Saturn in the 6th, there is probably a potential for maybe a health issue that you might be dealing with, or like a belief system around a health issue that you may have to come to terms with. And that opposition may be making it difficult to get the rest that you need. And especially with Mars there, think of 12th as also like a dream liminal state too. And think of like the god of war just banging around in your dream life. It's hard to relax. There's a lot of anxiety behind the scenes when Mars is moving through our 12th houses. So try to rest as much as you can. Try to release the anxiety as much as you can in the moment, and it'll all work out. Just use your grace and use your ability to find balance to work through that. Kate says, Spencer, when you read tarot cards, do you consider reversed cards? Just curious because a card fell for my 12th house new moon query. Yeah, I read reversals. Oftentimes I look at reversals as either the opposite of that energy, or that it just hasn't been integrated yet. Like maybe there's a need for that energy, but we haven't quite either acknowledged it, or there's a blockage to it, or we need to take a slightly different perspective towards it. Let's see, did I get a reversal today? I'm just thinking about this today. Yesterday I had I pulled two cards, a card of the day and my personal card. And I got the Wheel of Fortune and the World yesterday. And today, okay, here's an example, Kate. I got the Two of Cups today upright for the daily card, the energy of the day, which seems fairly harmonious, which is two people having a harmonious interaction and traction to something. But I got the Knight of Wands reversed for my personal card, which to me is twofold. I think that my understanding of the Knight of Wands is an energetic, riding into battle or something like that. And you could interpret it as, I'm interpreting it this way. I'm feeling a little bit low energy. Like it's a balsamic moon phase. I've had a really long week. My energy level is slightly low. So I have to make sure that I pace myself with that Knight of Wands. It also could be, telling me to not rush into battle, and fight with people over my beliefs. Like today, I've tried to stand my ground in a place where I feel strongly about, but I've also made an attempt not to antagonize people that I may disagree with, like, and try to focus on the bright side of something. So there's one reading of like pulling the Knight of Wands. So I hope that helps answer your question. Okay, so let's move forward to Scorpio rising. Okay, Scorpio rising, you are probably excited to see these nodes shift and get the south node out of your first house. That's the first thing I'll say. But you're having a 9th house new moon. This could be a new cycle for finding meaning in your life and finding belief. This could also be something where you're planning a new trip or a vacation or a long distance journey, but not just any journey, like a journey that will really take you out of your routines and help you find a new sense of purpose within life. This nodal shift that we're experiencing, or maybe you're even teaching a new course too. This could be another thing where you're sharing your wisdom and learning a new philosophical belief system around it. The nodal shift is going to be putting the south node into your 12th house and the north node in your 6th, potentially increasing your workload, potentially increasing the work that you do that you might not always get credit for, which is a 6th house signification. It may also increase your rashness that may lead to an injury or an illness. So I would encourage Scorpio north nodes, really be careful about rushing into things. Be careful about forcing things, because that could lead to increasing the mistakes, which 6th house is often associated with like the things that pull us away from completion, but also injuries, illnesses, and things that happen really that aren't necessarily our own fault. So I'm not saying this as an admonition. I'm saying it as more of a caution to just kind of set up circumstances to give yourself the best chance to avoid some of the worst manifestations of a 6th house north node. Now, the south node in the 12th may be decreasing your ability to like relax and rest and have solitude. And you may need that. Maybe you've been hiding away too much right now, and it's time to get to work, like with this shift. The Mars-Saturn opposition is going to be over your 11th and 5th house. So you may be changing some of your belief systems around how you seek pleasure and entertainment and your own creative process. And that may be creating some conflicts with how things are done within the groups that you're a part of. So really try to maybe release your attachment to form when you're working with others, and see how you can get to the core essence of your creative process with this. Okay. Kate says, well, the Ace of Wands fell. This might make sense for Leo rising, as having Mars finish trekking and running ourselves ragged. Yeah, Kate, did you have a long week too? I wonder if it's a Leo rising thing, but I think everyone is feeling this with the end of a lunar cycle. Rose says, I just found out the name of the gardening method with copper, electroculture. Okay, I'll check that out. That sounds really interesting. Like maybe that helps bring down some of the energy to the earth, and I'll have to learn more about it. I don't know anything about it, so that's cool, Rose. I'll check that out, electroculture. Kate says, thank you for your input. I understand your interpretations can be filled with personal preference, as it should. I just value your perspective as a teacher. Well, thank you, Kate. Appreciate you. All right, let's go to Sagittarius rising. All right, Sagittarius rising. Here we have an 8th house new moon. So the 8th house is interesting. And this is one that I find, it's not always the easiest for me to delineate, but some things that we can be fairly certain of is that it's the 2nd house from the 7th. And it is sometimes relates to resources of a partner, or how you support a partner, or something of that nature. It can relate to legacies that happen after death, everything that happens after a completion. So there may be something that you're starting that is dealing with the aftermath of something that you just ended. Okay, the end of a death, or like an inheritance, or like the end of a project, the end of a partnership. All of those things can be related to the 8th house. It's also the gate of Hades, one of the gates of Hades, the entrance into the underworld. So oftentimes when we have 8th house placements, we're dealing with things that we've repressed, we're dealing with fears, we're dealing with challenges, and we're trying to work through that stuff. So that could be part of what's going on with Sag rising. Also, your nodes are going to be shifting into the 11th and 5th house. North node moving into the 5th, so it's actually a really positive time for increasing your creativity. If you are of childbearing age or proclivity, it could also be increase the chances of having a child as well with the North node in the 5th house. The 11th house South node, you may be focusing less on your group involvement and more on your own personal desires and how to create. So oftentimes I will say, like, let's say you're Sag rising and you are having a kid. Babies take up a lot of time. This is just an example. It could be a creative project, okay? And you often have less social time when you are having a child. So that could be something too, where the South node is decreasing your involvement publicly with groups. It also could be that there's just a group that you're a part of that's run its course, and you're trying to figure out how to individuate around this. Mars and Saturn are squaring off over your 10th and 4th house axis. So there's been a lot of responsibilities and changes and belief systems that have been coming up for you, Sag rising, with the 4th house Saturn retrograde, and the ability to let go of some of maybe those limiting beliefs. I've talked at length in the past about accepting that freedom is not necessarily the lack of responsibility. It is an internal state. So that may be being put to the test right now. A lot of times Sagittarius wants to, I don't think they shirk responsibilities. I think they actually carry a lot of heavy burdens. If you look at my Decans webinar, Sagittarius is associated with the 6th house of the Thema Mundi, and they carry a lot of weight. I think, like, metaphorically. Like Sagittarius can really like be carrying heavy burdens to try to get to the end of the solstice. So, but I do think that there's a restlessness. There's a horse part to Sagittarius that says, I just need to find a new horizon. And with Saturn in the fourth, there, you may feel like you're a little bit more bound to your physical place that you're at, or to a family or responsibility, or to a house or an area or a location. And that could be putting some stress on your career too, because you're wanting to start some new things publicly. But there may be some challenges and some roadblocks with your family as well. So hang in there. Focus on generosity and your magnanimous spirit, especially with Jupiter and in Taurus, and just focus on steady rhythms. Everyone too, like with Jupiter in Taurus, being able to focus on just showing up, doing as much as you can do for that day, and then resting is very important. That's going to lead to success, pacing yourself during this period of time. Okay. Capricorn rising. Look at you, Capricorn rising. You're getting in under the 3-hour mark. I bet that's exciting. It's fun. Okay. Cap rising, you're having a new moon in your 7th house. This is an angular house for you. So this is a new start for your partnerships. So if my partner is listening, it's a new moon for us, babe. She probably is rolling her eyes at me right now. And on some level it is. She and I are going through some changes that will require us to work together more and figure out how to balance scarcity versus luxury and abundance and things of that nature. And, you know, you Capricorn rising might be also experiencing an increase in your domestic situation, maybe in your home, and a decrease in your interaction with the public. We've been discussing the advantages of remote work, so that might be something on the horizon. The nodes are going to be requiring maybe some release of public type of experiences and an increase in initiating something that's very personal to you, Capricorn rising. You are at the moment, my love. Sorry, I just can't help but talk directly to Tanya with this. But I love all of you, Capricorn rising. So if you need like the quiet storm, like I'm ridiculous. Sorry. You are probably experiencing a little bit of a challenge between some anxiety in your beliefs that is also running into some challenges in your daily routines. I know in our family, Tanya's car broke down 6 weeks ago, and Saturn has been creating a lot of like challenges with getting from point A to point B just in the daily life. But we're about to resolve that situation. And Mars can create anxiety about kind of bigger picture, macrocosmic things. So try to relax, try not to get attached to the form of your beliefs. And, you know, you might be able to shift things based on, you know, trusting your intuition a little bit more, trusting your own ability to work through some of the challenges that we're seeing, especially macrocosm versus microcosm challenges. Okay. Let's keep rolling. And Tanya's still here. Hello. There's our little goat friend. Sorry, I'm trying to get through this. I'm seeing if I can get done in time to pick her up from work and save her a trip on the bus. Aquarius rising, 6th house. So this is the 6th house new moon for you, Aquarius rising. This may be a new type of project that might require you to kind of grind it out a little bit. 6th house is work that is sort of challenging. There may also be a health issue that crops up. That's not true for everybody, but you may also have to deal with some of that moving forward. 6th house is also things that pull us away from completion. I like to help people with 6th house issues by saying that, look, 7th house is bringing things to completion. The 6th house is the time before that completion. So there's always a lot of hard work before you complete something. So you may have to accept that there is responsibilities that you have. If you have a 6th house new moon or something like that, this lunation cycle may feel like, oh, this is the time before an ending. And it may be pulling me away from the ending through all these things that are out of my control. This is the joy of Mars, is the 6th house. So there may be some things that come up that pull you away from finishing something, but that's okay. It's not necessarily your fault. Appreciate the journey, right? That's what I like to say about the 6th house is you learn stuff from the journey, even if you're not necessarily finishing it yet, okay? The nodes are going to be moving to your 9th and 3rd house axis, the north node moving into the 3rd house in Aries, south node in the 9th house. This may be a really important time for Aquarius risings and Aquarians in general to release some of the belief systems that may be too rigid. Your ruling planet, Saturn, is retrograde in Pisces, and you may especially have to release some of your beliefs around resources and how you support yourself, and abundance issues and questions and challenges. So you may also increase your curiosity, increase your ability to trust your own intuition. Maybe you're starting a learning process as well. So release certainty and increase curiosity is what I would recommend for Aquarius risings at this point. Remember, that perfectionism that I talked about applies to society for Aquarius risings a lot. They believe in, a lot of them will believe in the perfection of the human experience, and a lot of them get really disappointed by humanity because they see humanity as being corrupted because it's not a reflection of the perfect ideal that they see as possible abstractly, but not necessarily in practice. So be flexible about that, and you'll cause yourself less suffering along the way. You have Mars opposing your ascendant ruler, Saturn, from the 8th house, so there may be some unexpected expenses coming with a partner, or there may be some things that you have to release that are in unison with somebody else, or with maybe some fears that have been repressed. You may have to change the form of how you deal with being supported so that you can, really kind of start going out and putting yourself out there and increasing your ability to support yourself with Saturn. Saturn in the 2nd house is often like, all right, it's time for a budget. It's time for you to really set some healthy limitations in how you spend your money, how you make your money. And in here, it's really changing your beliefs around resources as well. So that could be part of it also. Okay. The good news, Aquarius rising, is you got Jupiter on your angle in the 4th house. There could be some really nice, beautiful increases in your home life right now. Like maybe it's through gardening, maybe it's through remodeling, something like that. But just that there could be some nice quiet moments at home. Okay, Pisces rising. All right, Pisces rising. You have a new moon in the 5th house. So this could be a really creative time for you, Pisces rising. You've been getting your butt kicked a little bit by Saturn in your 1st house, and now Saturn is opposing Mars in your 7th house. So maybe you're changing view of yourself and what is possible for yourself is starting to come into a conflict with the other people in your life, and a significant other, or business partner, or anything could be up for debate with that. But this is a good time for you to really make a new start creatively about how you seek pleasure and enjoyment. The nodes are going to be shifting to the 2nd and 8th house for you. So this is interesting. So the north node is going to be increasing your desire for supporting yourself, and maybe decreasing your dependence on others financially or materially. So this is a good time to think about maybe how you can use your creativity and your intuition to maybe launch a new program or something like that, or launch a new class or something. Jupiter's in your 3rd too, so that's ruling your ascendant. So it's a good time to maybe educate yourself around how you can increase your prosperity or something of that nature. Maybe through taking a class. It could be through learning some business techniques or something like that. Those also could be supportive in your journey as well. Okay, let's go back to Aries rising. Aries rising, back around the wheel. I started with Cancer today. Because this was an idea that I thought was a good one, starting with the rising sign of where the sun is, okay? Because then everyone gets a turn to be first and everyone gets a turn to be last. Sounds fair to me. Okay, Aries rising. We've got a couple more to go. Fourth house, angular new moon. So this is a new start in your domestic situation, in your home, in your family. This could be, a lot of questions could come up about what is enough around your home and your family life. This is something that's true for all the rising signs. Questions of what is enough versus do I need more? Do I need to expand? Do I need to contract? Those are going to be questions that come up with this. The nodes are going to be shifting to your first house and your seventh house. That's a big deal. Okay, like the north node is going to be moving into your first. The south node is going to be moving into your seventh. This is a great time, Aries rising, for you to expand your own initiatives and your own visions. Okay, you are going to be, you may have some relationship stuff to work out too. Maybe you're bound to a relationship that needs to, maybe you need to decrease your dependence on that relationship, maybe without destroying it completely. Like, again, there's a balance point. You don't necessarily have to leave a relationship to find a better balance within it, but some relationships could end as well. And a lot of the energy of an Aries rising is to learn independence and personal sovereignty also, depending on that Mars placement too. Mars, speaking of Mars, Mars is in your sixth house right now, potentially creating something like inflammation or something like that, or digestive issues potentially, but also just bringing you a lot of hard work and a lot of detailed work that may just feel like you're going through the grind right now. Mars and Saturn are in their joys in your chart, Aries rising, and that can be a good thing, but it isn't always a good thing. Sometimes it means that one of those planets, depending on what sect that they're in, is out of sect and just increasing their ability to either bring injury, illness, accidents, or your feelings of isolation on some level. So Saturn joying in the 12th house, it can mean that if it's well dignified, that you have all the resources that you need to weather solitude, but it could also make you feel really separated too. So hang in there. Try to reach out to people in your community too if you're feeling isolated or if you're feeling like you're just grinding away. Aries rising can be very self-sufficient, but everybody needs some help every once in a while. And this may be the time to reach out to people and get some support if you're feeling like you're a little bit too isolated with that. So that's Aries rising. Okay. Looking through the chat. Let's see. Yeah, don't forget to hit the like button. Thanks, Kate. Yeah, if you're enjoying this, like and subscribe. If you want to donate, that helps too. Appreciate all of you who have been generous today. And I just love all your comments and insights as well. Okay, Taurus rising, let's do this. You're having a third house new moon. So the third house has to do really with education, with learning new things, but also daily habits and routines. So you may have a new cycle related to taking a lot of short trips and journeys. It also is related to the joy of the moon. So this is a new moon where the moon is joying. So to me, the moon joying in this third house, the moon is very transitory. It moves very quickly. There might be a lot of movement in your life, Taurus rising, recently. You may have to do a lot of little errands in your local area. It may feel kind of busy. But also this is an opportunity for you to start trusting yourself, for you to start really trusting your own intuition and your own inner guide rather than having to follow the orthodox ideas of the ninth house. So this could, with Pluto there, you're probably seeing some of the corruption of the ideas that maybe were forced upon you as a young person, and through, trusting your own inner wisdom, inner vision, you're starting to bring balance to that and starting to be released from some of that tension. The north node is going to move into your 12th house and the south node in the 6th. This to me says that there's probably some rest coming, hopefully, or that you're going to need to be flexible about how things happen. Like, I think that the way to deal with the 12th house north node or 12th house anything is to surrender to the process. Try not to force your will on things. Make sure you're taking time for yourself. You've probably been grinding a lot the last few years, and that time may be coming a little bit to an end. So that's something to consider. Like, it's okay to rest a little bit and receive help from someone else around that. You have Jupiter in your first house right now, which is really positive. This is going to lead to an expansion of what you think is possible for yourself and your personality. Mars and Saturn are opposing over the 5th and 11th house axis, so this could be really some challenges around feeling either part of a group or your own personal creativity. You may be really questioning your role within groups and the people that you've surrounded yourself with. And there could also be some challenges with your kids also, that where, I know Monique earlier, we were talking about, she's a Taurus rising, and she was talking about getting immunology for her son, or going through that process. So maybe I could see that there might be some bureaucratic challenges with something like that, like running into a wall is the opposition, like a foot on the gas, foot on the brake type of energy. So just have patience with that process, because it's temporary. It'll start separating shortly after this new moon. Okay. Kate says, Spencer, I understand a class just started. I missed a couple lives. Could you share opportunities for learning with you, either current or future things you're brainstorming? Yeah, Kate. So I have some things in the hopper. I am considering putting together a Decan walk for September, which would be a year-long exploration through the Decans. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Sign up for the email list if that sounds interesting to you. I'll probably do another guided group study. And there's been some people encouraging me to do an Astro Fundamentals class. So if enough people reach out to me and are like, yes, I will do that, then I will respond in kind. I have to pace myself too, as far as my level of expansion. I am a 12th house sun for all of you who don't know yet. And I have to really watch my energy levels. Sometimes I can bite off more than I can chew, and then I have to realize that my energy is limited and finite. But the Decan walk would be super fun. We'd go through an entire year together. We'd probably meet once a Decan. I would include my webinars in that class. So there would be one price if you have the webinars already, and one if you don't. And there will be payment plans available, although I'm going to have to work on creating contracts for that. But that is on my mind. So yes, if you would like to do that, please sign up for my email list, and or even just in addition, send me an email and say, yes, I'm interested in the Decan walk, because I really think that would be fun. I love the Decans. It would be a great way to connect long term. It will be a larger offering. It will probably be a little bit more expensive than some of my offerings have been. But I think that's part of my Jupiter and Taurus expansion type of thing. And it's been coming for a while. I've been doing a little bit of little things for a long period of time, and it's time for me to have more of a bigger offering type of thing. So that's what's kind of on my mind, and I think it'll be fun. We just have to put it all together, and I would love for you all to join me with that. Again, I'll let you know when it's launched. I hesitate to talk too much about it before it's launched, because we're going through some retrogrades coming up. But yeah, that's on my mind, and I feel pretty strongly that that's going to be happening. Okay, Taurus rising, you feel adequately seen? Good. Okay, Janet's here. Janet Goodspeed. Hello, Janet. She says, do a Decan walk, please. I will honk the horn on your behalf. Good. I like I gotta be careful how I respond to that. I like honking your horn, Janet. Sorry. It was just, you lobbed that softball up to me. But I love Janet's work at Good Sigil. And this is, Janet, I hope that you're doing well with this new moon, which is pretty close to your ascendant, if I'm not mistaken. So this is a good time for you to expand your possibilities. But I would love for you to join us, Janet. I enjoy working with you, and please support her work at goodsigil.com. Okay, Gemini rising. We've got one more left. You've been so patient, Gemini rising. I know that you're not used to that, but here we are. Second house, new moon. This is a new start potentially financially for you, Gemini rising, and sometimes we can even consider Gemini sun if you want to think about it as a solar chart type of thing. uh, I'm laughing at Janet's comments here. Have you? Sorry, I'm gonna go to this place here because it's on my mind. Have any of you seen the like very adult puppet movie Avenue Q? Like, this is what I'm thinking of, Janet, because in that movie they have like this song that they sing like all day long. I honk the horn to porn, porn, porn. It's just very funny. It's just coming into my mind. It's very adult, but sorry that I apologize for being crass, but that is something that came up, Janet, when you were talking about honk the horn in all caps. Okay, let me compose myself. We'll get through this. Gemini rising, second house, new moon is you're going to be having a new experience about supporting yourself. You're probably going to be examining what is excess. Sorry, Tanya warned me too late. There's a 30-second delay. She's like, don't do it. Sorry, friends. Yes, the song is "The Internet is for Porn," and it's from Avenue Q. Like, so it's funny, but it may not be everyone's cup of tea. So sorry if I've offended anyone. But anyway, you may be examining, Gemini rising, where the excesses are, where the scarcities are in your own budget and your own ways of supporting yourself and your own skill set. So this could be part of this cycle here. The nodes are going to be shifting to, what is the nodes? To your 11th house and your 5th house. So this could be an opportunity for you to increase your group endeavors or your reliance on your communities. Maybe you'll be reducing your own creative endeavors and joining into some sort of altruistic group or organization or something like that. You have the Mars-Saturn opposition happening. Sorry, I'm just still laughing at the Avenue Q. Especially laughing at Tanya warning me and probably like slapping her forehead and be like, oh no. Like, sorry, I got the giggles. Okay, let me compose myself once again. I'm a professional. Mars is opposing Saturn over your 4th and 10th house axis, Gemini rising. So there's a lot of changes around the beliefs of your 10th house around how you put yourself out into the world, what is possible for you in your career and your public life. And there may be some oppositional challenges with how you're with your house, with your home life, with your domestic situation. Maybe there's some changes that are happening you're feeling a lot of pressure in your home life. And that's also, trying to strike that balance between the career and the home life is something to consider right now. Okay, I got through it. This is fun. Where's the moon right now? Is it in Gemini? It's probably still in Gemini, isn't it? Okay, friends, we did it. We got through all the 12 signs. This is fun. I needed to laugh today. I got one of my I always pull an Ascended Master, and I got Maitreya today was the laughing Buddha. So thanks for initiating some laughter for me. I think sometimes I've been going down a serious path, and it was nice to get some levity today. Just looking through the chat before we wrap up today. Janet says, I apologize for distracting Spencer. No, it's all good. We need to laugh together, friends. And, Muppets singing about pornographic films is funny. All right, well, can we just agree on that? It's funny. Like, I'm sorry if you're a prude, but like, it's hilarious to me. Okay. Dimfy says, thank you for being so patient. I was glad when you said think when it is enough. So I did put away the pistachios. And now, last but not least, thank you. Good. Reverend Kai appreciates the humor here. Good. All right. Okay, friends, let's finish this up. And we'll move on. Hexagram, an animal. The hexagram I got for you today was number 8, which translates to union, joining with others, joining in. And this one was interesting. This is maybe a warning that another layer that I really hadn't seen with this just the astrology. But line number 3 says joining with the wrong people. So this is warning about that maybe some of the people that you've been associating with may not be right for you. It encourages you to expand your circle. That is an interesting thing for Cancer season, because a lot of times Cancer folks, myself included, we have our little circle like that we trust. Like I have a lot of acquaintances, but I have a very small circle of people that I truly, truly trust. So we may have to expand who we trust, who we let into the circle. This is also giving you a warning that maybe there's some people in your life that you may be associated with that in the future may damage your reputation by being associated with them. So be careful. Just kind of, I don't mean that to be super negative, but this is interesting because there's an opposition with Pluto. So be careful about who you associate with around this period of time. And it also encourages you to open your heart to people who are your true equals. Oftentimes we try to associate with people because of like status and issues of that nature. But we often ignore the people in our life that are just really like, they're just like us. And I think this is a good period of time to maybe also wait to form unions during this cycle also, because of Venus retrograde. There may be something that's revealed about a partnership or something like that that may have you reconsidering the way you create harmony with others. This is changing the hexagram 39, which translates to obstruction, limping, adversity, impediment, self-reflection. So if we're joining together with the wrong people, that can lead to roadblocks. That can lead to like things slowing down. So be very careful about your crew. Maybe try to look outside of the normal people that you are associating with to bond with or something like that. That's a weird one. Yeah, that's an interesting one with the I-Ching. And I do think that if I'm reflecting on it further and I think about it, Cancer, the second decan of Cancer is called the walled garden. And we can be very protective of the people we care about. And we can also, there's a Cancerian clannishism. I mean that like we really care about the people we care about. It's like either you're in or you're out, and if you're out, you're like really out. And we have to be careful not to do that, right? And we need to be careful who we let in to our sacred spaces as well, right? We have to be careful about who we really entrust our energy with, our intimacy with also. The animal I got for you today was the hummingbird. So this to me is all about the levity. Like hummingbirds are flitting here and there. They speak to like just lightening up a little bit, finding joy, enjoying life. Hummingbirds are a little bit territorial. That also fits in with the Cancerian experience. So be careful about being too territorial as well. They get in like really battles with each other over like who can, drink the nectar from a particular flower. So be careful about that. Hummingbird also encourages us to stand up for ourselves if we're in a situation of abuse as well. So embrace your optimism, your joy, embrace play. It can be hard to relax with a hummingbird totem or a hummingbird animal spirit. Hummingbird is always flying. They never really relax very long. They are always flying from one direction to another. So this may be encouraging us to slow down, relax, and to be able to be patient with the process. We're going to be going through a Venus retrograde. We're going to be going through a Jupiter retrograde after that, and a Mercury retrograde. Saturn is still retrograde. Things are up for review right now. So take your time. This is the pregnant pause before we really dive into the passion of Leo season. So allow yourself the rest, allow yourself the recharge that you need so that your intuition can bubble to the surface and you can really feel confident, like Leo in Leo season, that you're pursuing the right direction and the right path. All right, my friends, that's what I've got for you today. Thank you for bearing with me today and for your beautiful comments, for your donations, for your wisdom. Thanks for the levity. And I will see you all the next time. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Sign up for the email list. You want to send me a donation after the fact, you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com. And I hope to see you all the next time. I'll see you next week for the astrology of August, right? August? Is that where we're at now? Yes, the astrology of August we're doing next week. All right, friends, take care, and I will see you the next time. Peace.